Blog Talk Radio.
He is the last of his kind. All that remains of a once powerful nation. Some think he is a myth. Some believe he is the chosen one, who will bring balance to a world at war. And some will stop at nothing to destroy him.
It's time. Summon of the Moors, December 19th through the 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. Several great minds working on one collective, economic security. For the first time in Jacksonville, Tarhaka Bey, Yusuf L, Akili, and back at the summit, Red Pill and Blue Pill, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, Sharif Noble, and our Amma, the Abundance Child, with myself, Dalo Saku. Register today at www.summitofthemoors.com.
Welcome, Moors, to Moors Talk Live 100. I'm your host, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, and tonight we'll be talking about status, nationality, standing, and community. The phone lines are going to be open tonight. The number to dial into the broadcast is 310-982-4184. 310-982-4184. All you have to do is press 1 on your phone, and the phone lines will open up, and they'll give me an indication that you got something to say. Now, my question is, what is your nationality? What about your status? What standing do you have with the court? When will the Moors get a community? That's what I want to know. I mean, what's your nationality? If you believe that you are Negro, colored, black, African American, the only thing for Americans, the only thing that I need you to do is show me where that particular land is on the map. I know what Chinese, I know what China is on the map. I know where Japan and the Japanese are located on the map. I know where India and the Indians are located on the map. I know where Jamaica and the Jamaicans are located. I know where Australians and I know where Australia. Why is it that these things are written down and everybody can see it, but we can't seem to? I've been searching for black land. Can't find it. I've been looking for African American land. Can't find it. I've been looking for Afro American, Negro. I've been looking for it. Can't find it. Are there people in America to think, well, it don't make no difference? You know, we could just be Negroes and colored, black, and still have a nationality. The United Nations said that no man shall be deprived of a nationality. Now, that's what they said. They're the same ones that said that the people in Louisiana are the oldest people on earth, predating the ancient societies of ancient Egypt, the ancient dynasties. I don't want to use the word dynasty, but the ancient nation of Egypt. They said that. Put it in writing, put it down on paper. What is this thing about putting things in writing? What is contract law? Let's deal with nationality. Now, what I would recommend that you do is get you a pencil and paper so you can write down information and that you can actually use it to get things done. Now, that's just my recommendation. Now, before we begin and we open up the lines, we go down into this dialogue, I want you to get a pencil and paper, and then we will be right back.
The truth is, you must be in business for yourself. Now, let's take a look at this. Dial this number, 972-999-9277 for the 2-minute message. When you're done, call Tarhaka, 904-303-9061. You got to be in business for yourself. For the hottest business opportunity going today, dial 972-999-9277. That's 972-999-9277. When you're done, call Tarhaka, 904-303-9061. The greatest business opportunity this century. Don't miss it. One more time. Our foreclosure killer package not only comes along with the necessary documents that you need, but also your very own personal coach to walk you through the process of saving your home. If you've been foreclosed on already, or if you've received documents stating that you'll be foreclosed on, or if you are already in the court fighting a foreclosure, contact Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, 904-303-9061. Also visit our website at www.newdebtelimination.com. Stop foreclosure on your property. Let's stop this unlawful practice. Contact me, 904-303-9061, before 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.
Okay, I'm back. Now, based on that last commercial, I have a few things, a few questions to ask. Is there anything that make the judge in any foreclosure situation liable for the taxes on the property? Is there anything in there that makes the mortgage company liable? Is there anything in there lawfully that is incorrect, unlawful, and makes the whole situation liable? I think that's fair. That's fair. These are just fair questions that I'm asking. Let's get on down into the broadcast, and I need you all to have you some paper and pencil. Hopefully, we're going to have some other brothers and sisters that call in, and we're going to run this thing. And I want you to make sure that you have paper and pencil handy so that we can record some things and we can get some things right. Okay, y'all hold on a minute. Make sure you got your paper and pencil now. I'm gonna take no break. You can make it. You already had that by now. Okay. Area code 706. Tell me who you are, and you're on the air. 706. Are you with me? Okay, 706 dropped for a minute, but anyway, you'll be dialing back in, and what we're going to do is take a little quick break, And keep in mind, later on in the broadcast, the phone lines are open. Get your paper and pencil. Here you go. I was trying to keep them doing it, but here you go. Here it goes, 706. Are you with us?
Peace to the God. I am in the building. What's going on?
All right, my brother. Peace to the God. Brother, you just went down in California, man. And you back up in the Bangham. And I don't know about you, but every time I ever went west, when I come back home, I was mighty. I had to get out on the corners and do all kind of stuff. 20 minutes, I had to go lay down. Tell me about it, man. How was it out there, bro?
Yeah, we were out in Las Vegas.
Mm.
And, we do what we do. We had a class, conversation.
Okay.
Room full of multimillionaires. Want to know what it is that we were talking about. I mean, they knew what we were talking about. They knew what we were about. And was interested in that. These majority of people are European. So we lay down what we lay down. We do what we do. They still got the information on, the Sankofa initiative. We went into some other things, went to a lot of stuff that we'll be going into at the summit. So probably be in Chicago this weekend. And shout out to the people out there protesting too, man. Get that mayor up out of there. You know, they say it's bigger than Laquan McDonald's death. All those other people out there in Chicago, man. Keep your head up. Keep that fight going. So, you know, it was beautiful, man. Good experience. I got to see Las Vegas. You know, I was a straight tourist. Got to see all these hotels, man. The hotels are basically skyscrapers out there, pieces of artwork. But
Okay.
it was a good experience, man.
Okay. Tell me about the brothers and sisters you met when you was out there, man. That's what we want to know about.
I tell you, it wasn't that many brothers and sisters out there in Las Vegas. You know, it was one brother from the last show that we did. Last week we did. I met out there in Vegas. He stays in Palm Coast, Cali. So he came down. He came down to the class, and you know, we're gonna do some things with them. When they're ready for us to come out there, we just come on out there and lay it down. It really wasn't that many brothers and sisters out there, man. Other than the staff that works there, we kind of on the strip, wasn't into the neighborhoods or anything. But that's about it, man. That city is not designed for us. It's designed for people, other people, and you know, come spend that money, got that expendable income. That's Vegas.
Okay. Well, that ain't nothing that we ain't. That's nothing. We brand new too. I know. We do that very well.
That's right.
In my opinion, man, tonight I want to deal with status, nationality, standing, and community. Did you touch on, did you get a chance to touch on, or were you accosted by anybody talking about nationality?
In Vegas?
Yeah.
Nah, we didn't get into that.
Okay. Well, well, I know you. What is your take on nationality?
Well, first, let me say this. I believe we should have a nationality. When you talk about a people that's generally lost in the wilderness of North America, as Elijah Muhammad put it, and it was Noble Drew Ali who brought up the status thing for our people, basically to tie you back to something, some state, some nation, because before then, you know, if you didn't have a nationality, you were just wandering around or carrying the titles or the misnomers of a free slave. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, we're thankful for what Noble Drew Ali brought and the information that he brought. We thank for all the leaders or brothers and sisters that came and brought information, man, and got us to where we're at consciously in 2015. And you got to have a nationality. Because when you understand what nationality is, you see why you should have it. And what it does is, a nationality is like the red pill from the Matrix. You know, it interrupts the frequencies that had you sleep. You understand? Once you figure out that, you know, your name, your nationality is that thing that's going to tie you back to your people and your family. And you understand that, you know, you're part of a culture and not just being like some redhead stepchild that's floating around in the world. You know what I mean? And I laid that out in my book, one of my books called Understanding Jurisdiction and Status for Moors in North America as well. There's a piece in there called Name and Nationality. It's a little small book.
Okay, well, wait a minute now, because you done mentioned your books. Could you tell us what books you've written and how can we get them?
The book is called, it's a Kemetic guide. It's supposed to be a series of books, you know, introductory stuff. It's called Kemetic Empire's Guide to Understanding Jurisdiction and Status for Moors in North America. And you can get that book, John. You can get it from Lulu. You can download it from lulu.com, LULU.com. It's full of typos, so forgive me. Right now we try to put all the stuff in a nice thicker book because there's so much new information that's come about since I've written this book. And that's a lot of great research that a lot of the brothers and sisters have been putting in out there that I can add to what I've already discovered and putting in this book. And, you know, a lot of these case laws, that whole thing, all of it's great, man. It's a matter of compiling and putting it out there so people can have access to it. But generally, you know, we get into nationality, man. I would always refer people to get into a law dictionary and understand what nationality is, and how it's defined, because that's basically what we're going by when we talk about nationality.
Okay, well now this is a very important question. I have to ask you about the books that you wrote. How did you compile your book? Because you sound like a young man to me.
I hope I'm young. I feel young. When you say,
you don't want to be
how did I compile
like me, man.
I get there. You say, how did I compile it? What do you mean?
Yeah. I mean, how did you? Because I think there's a whole lot of brothers and sisters out there that got a lot of faith that they really believe and they know for a fact it's right. How do they compile it?
I mean, it's just research, man, and it's a matter of research, and I have it where it's streamlined, where it's an easy read, and that's where I've always done my lectures. Once I ask myself the hardest questions, I make it easier so people can already answer the question in the statements that I put out, or even ask a couple of questions in there to make you think in this direction that most people wouldn't probably think of. So, you know, I try to cover all the bases and make it like you're speaking to a fifth grader, so they can understand and you can raise them or bring them along with the information that you're trying to lay out, because this stuff is new to a lot of people. And when you ask you about nationality, they have no concept when it comes to our community. Our community is just like, you know, I'm black, African American. Oh, or now, you know, I'm human, and you know, so people just get into the abstract. I'm just existing. I'm just here. I'm energy. But you know, when you get into business, when you get into nations are based off business and commerce. You know, so you got to get into that, or you just, like most of us, are always victims to it because we don't understand it, or it's harsh to us because we don't understand it. We don't know the origins or the makings of it. So it's always very good to understand the origins of things that we're getting into or things that we're already in versus starting in the middle and trying to make it to the finish line. We have to get back to the beginning and understand these things when people are talking about it.
Okay. All right. Well, I got another caller with his hand raised. I'm going to open up the line. Hold on one second.
Right.
Air code 714, you live on More Talk Live 100. Tell me who you are, where you calling from, what's your question or comment.
Peace to the gods. Peace to the gods. This is Yusuf L.
Peace, God.
That voice sounds familiar. Who that is?
That's Yusuf L. Yusuf L. Hey, L means God. Comes from Joseph. The name means the raiser of gods.
You know what I mean? Man, I gotta make things clear, man.
You got to make it clear, because there's only a few of us. When we say L, we don't say L. When we say L, we're going back to the origin of what it means. God.
Yeah, God. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what everybody else try to apply a different meaning to it. Now, I mean God. Okay.
Well, you know what? I mean. You know what I'm gonna do? I got to give Brother Yusuf L some mathematics. And when he comes to Jacksonville, Florida, down to the summit, ladies and gentlemen, Brother Yusuf L will be down here at the Summit of the Moors, December the 19th and 20th. I'm going to give you a set of numbers. I need you When you come down here, and I know you're very, very busy, you probably won't get a chance to get around to it. But I'm going to give you the number 1320 and what that means.
1320. Well, all the better. I see 1, 3, 2, and 0. I see like 0, 1, 2, 3. And I see the number 6. I see the number 60. I see, I'm not, just looking at mathematically and everything, just off the rip, just looking at it. But, what is it that you want me to see from it?
If you're doing 1320 and you tapping it in any kind of computer on Earth, that's a number that got to be hid from all of us. Now, when I come down there, I'm going to do 1320.
Okay.
I'm going to clearly find it.
That's 1320. That ain't the weed. What is that?
You will not be getting it, and I know you don't do it, but you will not be getting any blunts from me. But when we come down there, we gonna do 1320, and it has everything to do with real time and natural time.
Okay. All right.
I done gave you too much now. I know you can sink the shit with them kind of people.
Make me go around on 1320.
Anyhow, we welcome you to Morris Talk Live 100. And tonight we're talking about status, nationality, standing, and community. I didn't get a chance to dial into your show early this morning, but Brother Diallo informed me that you were talking about nationality and stuff. So, Diallo, you there?
I'm here.
All right. Let him hold your soapbox a minute, but you stand all the way up. Let him.
Well, I mean, it wasn't. I did a show today. It was really about status. It wasn't too much about nationality, other than what is status. And when I first got into this, I wasn't under anybody's tutelage, so I haven't been indoctrinated with someone else's thoughts about what all of this is really about. I spent a lot of time in the law library. I spent a lot of time studying the meaning of words and so forth, and I really haven't revealed everything that I know. Sometimes somebody will piss me off, and I'll say, okay, let me go on and just show you really what this shit is really all about, and that's what I'll do sometimes. It's like, I'm like, this is a word game, and what I find is that I find that a lot of people, I'm trying to help people raise the bar as far as with their study habits and so forth. Like a lot of people, they'll quote things out of Black's Law 4th edition, and I really don't even think that they really understand how to even utilize a Black's Law 4th edition. A Black's Law 4th edition it's a common law dictionary. Each of the definitions of the words are coming from case citation. Those are case cites, and unless you read those cases to see in what sense the word is being utilized, then you can very easily misinform people and attribute certain meanings to those words that and utilize the Black's Law 4th edition to kind of, to verify your position, and that's just not true. When I first got into this, I learned a long time ago, you got to read everything. So I was just basically this morning giving people just a flow through. For instance, like in the word status coming out of the Black's Law 4th edition, another meaning for status is, estate. The word estate. That's what the word estate comes from status. And that was what the word meant for the first 500 years in law. It meant estate. Okay, so we're talking about your estate, and then when we talk about estate, we're talking about your rights, title, and interest in property that can be conveyed. So everybody's talking about standing status and basically all of this, and what I'm trying to get people to, because as I read the Black's Law Dictionary, 80% of the words in there are concerning commerce. They're commercially related terms. You can almost pull up any word out of that book, and all of them are dealing with commerce. Almost all of them, in some shape, form, or fashion. Anybody who's read, and I'm not just saying that, anybody who's read the Black's Law Dictionary, you should know this. If you take a American jurisprudence and study administrative law, almost 100% of the cases in there are commercial in nature. It's just everything is dealing with commerce. And my understanding of law is, first of all, I understand that there's a public and there is a private side to law. And that's what I was reading. Like you hear a lot of Moors use the word act. They'll say the Moors Free Sundry Act or the Religious Incorporation Act. And, you'll hear people say this, and I really wonder, I'm saying, do you really understand what you're saying when you say act? You're saying statute. And then we're talking about an act. All acts are either public or private. Now, where did I find that? Right in a Black's Law 4 edition. You find it right there under the definition of act. It'll tell you all acts are public or private in nature. All right? Corporations operate public or private. They operate quasi-private when they begin to engage in contracts for profit and so forth. Everything is about public and private. I didn't understand any of this information until I was taught the difference between public and private. And I'm on a mission to teach and when you read a law book, that's all you're going to see constantly throughout the entire law library is they're either talking about something public or something private. All right? They may use different words to express that. They may say general or special. They may say foreign or domestic. But all of it is the same stuff. It's public and private. They use different words to express it. But there are two sides to this. There's God, and then there is Caesar. Whatever. It's always these two sides of the coin of law that we're always discussing. And it wasn't until I really got an understanding of that demarcation line that I began to really understand law and the application of law. For instance, like the Constitution. The Constitution is public law. Okay, if you don't understand that, and it's very easy to verify that. That's another thing I don't understand. I listen to so many people talk. I don't hear any more. I've never heard any more really explain to anybody what it means when you say the Constitution is public law. Okay, it's a public side. Okay, on the private side, the Constitution doesn't have any application. It only has an application on the public side because it restrains government. It's a limitation on the powers of government. Okay, it's to keep people, because in this country, we have a free country and people can do whatever they want to as long as they don't infringe on somebody else's rights. All right? And that is what this country is about, and you exercise those rights on the private side. As long as you can do whatever in the private you want to do in the United States of America. It's only when you come into the public that you subject yourself to some type of sort of regulation. And people need to understand that. And if you understand also the difference between public and private, then you begin to get an understanding of how you can set up your own society. All right? Meaning put your own private schools together like a lot of the other religions do, like the Catholic Church and the Mormons and people of that nature. They have their own private schools where they can institute their own curriculum. It's private. It's not government-sponsored. Anything public schools are government-sponsored because anything in the public has to deal with the government. That's what it is. It's the government. That's their domain. The domain of the man of God is in the private domain, okay? And private people all interaction between people is contractual in nature, whether it is expressed or implied. There's some sort of contractual type relationship that one is engaging in when they engage in private individuals. It's a contract all the time. So that's why contract law is on the private side of things. It's under private law. And it just amazes me, it utterly amazes me that there are so many people who are on blog talks, on YouTube channels, and how easy it is for someone to verify this, and nobody takes the time to really explain this to anyone. And when people learn this public and private, everything begins to make sense to them. I get so many phone calls from so many different people, and man, I understand now what is going on. For instance, I have a client who they have a tax issue. Okay, they asked me about it. I looked at it. Okay, they've been using their Social Security number. They've been reporting W-2s on them and 1099s. They have a tax obligation. The IRS is threatening them with a tax evasion. They have to do something with that. You can't start and say, well, you know, I'm tax exempt. You've been using the Social Security number. They've been reporting on that number. You know, now we could probably bring in an argument that, you know, you don't have to pay them with Federal Reserve notes. That you know, that would be, I think, a smarter argument. But you're using the security number. The Social Security number is a public socialist number, you know, that is under the government. Tax laws on the public side. You've been in the public, operating in the public and everything. If you want it to be tax exempt, then you need to operate in the private. I mean, it's very, very simple, you know, to me when I look at it, because everything private. Tax law, you look up tax law is public law. Constitutional law is public law. Administrative law is public law. They're all on the private side. Criminal law is public law. Because when you come into some sort of controversy, it's usually something against the public. That's why you have the state versus so-and-so, because you've done something to violate some sort of statute, some type of statutory regulation or something like that, which exists on the public side. So, you know, once you understand that, so when I talk about status, and I'm talking about a public or private status, because everybody likes to talk about status, the treaties and so forth, and things of that nature. And when I look up these words and I start really getting into a study, I say, okay, I'm gonna get into a study of these things. Well, what is nationality, and how is it applicable in the courts today? Nationality doesn't have any application whatsoever in an Article I court. Nationality is an issue to be discussed in an Article III court, which is a court of law. An Article I court, these are administrative courts, and they are here to adjudicate matters of creditor and debtor relation type issues, or some type of violation from some sort of penal code statute or something to that effect, which is why, you know, you get so much of the stuff coming out of the court, these are frivolous arguments and things of that nature. It's not until, now I can understand when somebody says I claim my nationality and removing myself from their jurisdiction. Do they really understand what all that entails? You know, you're removing yourself from the jurisdiction and retaining the Social Security number. You're claiming your nationality and you're still banking with a Social Security number. You're claiming your nationality and you still are employed somewhere with a Social Security number. A Social Security number is a welfare number. That's what it was created for. At the advent of the Social Security Act is welfare. And anybody can look that up. You can just Google welfare state, and you can see that Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1933, when all this came, that's what he created, a welfare state, because people could not take care of themselves. They capitulated. They said, look, we have the Great Depression. We came into these cities and became dependent upon jobs and employment. We refused to live out in the country and grow our own food and build our own houses and do all the things that free people do. So now we gave up all that for convenience, and they came in, and now we don't have no jobs. They control the economy, and now we're going to institute a system where we're going to take care of you and make you a ward of the state. So when I talk about, you know, and I teach trust law too, when we talk about trust law, we have something called form versus substance. And what a lot of people are really engaged in, especially on the commercial side and the nationality side, they're engaged in this thing called form. All right? And what form is that you can form a trust, but if it's not managed correctly, then they can pierce that trust and construe it to be an association or partnership and then levy a tax against it in the form of a 30% penalty along with interest and fees and so forth, and probably bankrupt whatever corpus is in that particular trust. So the same thing is going on in different modes of operation. People are very, very into the form of something, but they're not getting into the substance of what it is they're doing. And substance, I mean by the actual conduct that you're engaging in on a daily basis that can be construed to be something different than what you are declaring. And you won't find that in more evident in something called a minimum contact. And a minimum contact means that you are engaged in some sort of conduct that brings you within the stream of commerce that is going to subject you, that's going to allow you to be hailed into one of these territorial courts. And they're not going to really want to hear too many arguments about your nationality because it's a tax issue. And if you're tax exempt, which some people are claiming to be, now on the public side, if you're going to be tax exempt, then you're going to have to ask for permission for that from the federal government. And you're going to have to bring that under some sort of act or statute, whether it be a 501(c)(3) or Religious Incorporation Act there in Illinois, which makes them tax exempt. There are no reporting requirements under that or whatever, but you are asking for permission in the public to be tax exempt. In the private, you're automatically tax exempt. Nothing in the private is taxable. So, so it's very easy. So more is like to give people the impression that you become a Moor, you're tax exempt. Anything in the private is tax exempt. It's not just because you're a Moor, you're tax exempt. All religions are tax exempt. So if you now you got to know how to stay in the private, and that's what I mean by form versus substance, meaning that you have to know how to conduct yourself accordingly. There's a conduct that is associated with it. You just can't give lip service to your status. You have to actions speak louder than words, and that's a maxim of law. That's a maxim of law. So when I did the status thing today, I started out by reading some definitions. I just went through a lot of definitions over the air today. I went into, I really questioned us calling ourselves Moabites and Canaanites. I question that. I bring that into question. It's like, the organization I came from, we didn't call ourselves Moabites. We didn't call ourselves Canaanites. The Moabites and the Canaanites, they were kind of like the lowest, people in the Bible. And I kind of read something today that kind of gave an explanation of how that came about, them, calling us Moabites and Canaanites. And I know I incited the irony of a lot of followers of Noble Drew Ali, but, hey, I'm going to just, I don't belong to any organization, any temple like that. I do my research, and I just, I'm going to speak the truth, though it be bitter to others. I'm just going to spit it how I see it. And, so that right there, probably, I'm going to talk about some things tomorrow's show and go in further about that. But we went into private law, public law, people. What does it mean when you talk about people? Do people really understand the definition of people? Because people think they're a part of we the people. And I contend that you are not part of we the people as it is stated in the Constitution. And I kind of confirm that with a Black Law 4th edition. When you read that, you'll see what we're talking about. There's two types of people. There are the people that are the inhabitants of the several states, which I think a lot of people are saying that they are. And then there's another type of people that is a source of governmental power or popular government. And they're a selected class of citizens whom the Constitution accords the elective franchise and the right of participation in offices of government. And that's a different kind of people. And then we have the definition of state. Corporations are called states. That's why they have something like the state of California, the state of Florida, and so forth. And you can see this in a Black Law 4th edition, and we'll tell you that. It'll tell you that, corporations are also called states. You can get into the definition of, what is it? I think I went over person, and person in Black Law 4th edition. It will tell you very clearly that in contemplation of the 14th Amendment, corporations are persons. You can see that very clearly. Just read it. It's right there in the definition of the person under the 4th edition. So if people are wondering the purpose of the 14th Amendment, you don't have to guess or give it conjecture or anything like that. You can look in the books and it'll tell you very clearly, yes, corporations are persons in contemplation of the 14th Amendment. This in itself should give you enough proof about the straw man. I mean, it should lend a lot of credence to the straw man theory because they kind of ask, what are you talking about? Right here it tells you the corporations are in the 14th Amendment. We know we can name a corporation anything that we want to. So now we talk about corporate souls. And then also I brought to people's attention Blackstone Commentary. Blackstone Commentary is the book that was widely used in this country before the advent of the Constitution. They govern themselves in this country utilizing Blackstone Commentary. The vestige of Blackstone Commentary today is American Jurisprudence and Corpus Juris Secundus. Those books in the law library. But if you go back and read it, you see a lot of information. I put up a copy of Blackstone Commentaries on my website. Anyone can go to highfrequencyradionetwork.com and just click on the PDF section, and I put a PDF up there of Blackstone Commentaries for people's education and edification if they're so interested in reading that book. But just really today, I just kind of like I'm just not the kind of person who just blindly follows anyone. I bring people's research into question by conducting my own research and, and looking up the meaning of the words and seeing whether or not these meaning of the words that people are applying to things, whether or not they are properly being introduced in their proper sense. And so,
well, wait a minute. And wait a minute. Now, how can the listening audience get a hold of you? How do we go to your website? What's your radio station?
Oh, I got a website. I got a morning show comes on in the morning. They can go to, blogtalkradio.com/high frequency. You can go to my website at highfrequencyradionetwork.com, and you can also listen to the show from there. And there's a lot of free information on the website. I have a library that I place on my website. It's a PDF library. People can go over there and, get access to a lot of free information. There's a forum section over there also that you go into the forum and post questions or, start debates or whatever it is that you'd like to do. There's a link section where I actually put up links to a lot of interesting related websites that relate to the subject matter of which we talk about so much on High Frequency Radio. And then there are case law sections that I have over there as well that I post a lot of case law related to trust, related to negotiable instruments, related to a lot of other things that I think people should be aware of, whenever they engage in certain activities. It's just a plethora of information over there. It's a cornucopia of information about how to free yourself from this system. And you can go over there, and you can also connect by calling in at 424-222-5250 at 8 a.m. Sunday through Friday, 5 days a week from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. in the morning. So those are the ways you can reach me.
You said the telephone number too slow.
Too slow. 424. Well, I can catch you. They go over to the website, but it's 424-222-5250. 8 a.m. in the morning. If you want to call in and cuss me out, hey, I'll be on.
Okay. Well,
on in the morning, in my website, man. Look at my Facebook page. It's on fire right now. Everybody, they mad at me.
Well, they know. Now I'm going Brother Diallo. Brother Diallo.
Go ahead, brother. You.
Okay. Now, he gave us his take on nationality based on what he said involving
status,
contract law.
It wasn't really nationality. It was status I was dealing with. But it was dealing with status. That's what I talked about primarily. All this is about status. Because people say, what is your status? And that's what I really went into on what status is. Because status is utilized in the black law. It's creditor and debtor. That's what they're referring to. Whether you're a creditor or a debtor, what's your status in relation to a estate or property or some type of corpus or some type of interest in some sort of commercial matter. That's what they're talking about. So, I think a lot of people are applying status in another sense. When they say status, they want to know what your relationship is, vice versa, to some sort of property.
Well, let me ask you this, because and the reason I have to ask you this is because I get a lot of calls from brothers. They call me and sisters 24 hours a day, and they're trying to figure out how to do their status and nationality into commerce. Can you share some light on that?
Commerce.
Hold on, Yusuf.
Go ahead.
Let me read something. Let me just read. We're gonna go 1, 2, 3 tonight, because it's gonna be the last one before the sun. We'll make this the last one because we got some work to do. Status, standing, condition, social position, the legal relation of an individual to the rest of the community, the rights, duties, capacities, incapacities was determined to a person given class. A legal relationship, not temporary in its nature temerable at the mere will of the parties with which third persons of the state are concerned. So when he talks about, Yusuf mentioned, when he talk about, see, status is a couple things. You got the thing in relationship with your family, and you got you got the thing that you have in business, right? So when you talk about status, it's just like statutes. Statutes are based off of what? Bonds.
Okay, now wait a minute. Before you continue, what law dictionary did you read that out of?
I was reading from my book there, brother. Understanding jurisdiction status normally.
Okay. All right. Now I'm gonna read you status.
I got a 5th edition right here.
Okay, 5th edition. Okay, I'm gonna read you status out of the 4th edition, Black's Law. It says standing state or condition. Okay, so then after it gives you the definition of the word, it's going to give you a case site. Reynolds versus Pennsylvania Oil Company, 150 Cal 62989P. This is what they call a 4th edition Black's Law dictionary, a common law dictionary, because common law means case law, or what's called stare decisis. So when you go and read that case, you're going to find out that's a case dealing with trust and trustees and what the status is or the state of condition is as it relates to the trust corpus. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because, like, a regular person would just go and get a 4th edition Black's Law Dictionary and just read that definition and then just automatically see your standing state or condition. But they would ignore the case behind it because that sentence got pulled out of a case. Because I can go pull this case, and that sentence is right there in the case. So then when you go read the case, you see how that was used in the case. And it was a commercial matter, is what it is. So then the next one, we said the legal relation of individuals to the rest of the community. And then we have Dorea versus Dia. So now, with that case, what I did was I looked at, well, what is a legal relation? A legal relation is a synonymous term with the word privity. Privity. Legal relation and privity is the privity of contract. All right, so when you talk about your legal relation, you're talking about what type of contractual ties do you have to the community. Because all private people have to enter into a contract. That's why it says in the Constitution, these state constitutions, if you don't have a contract that shows me that I'm subject to this law, these statutes, then you can't, I'm not subject to them. This is where, like people like Jonah Bay came up with the injunction and things of that nature. And you do find that in some constitutions. It says that, hey, you got to have a contract or you have to have some sort of agreement to be in this. And this is also why a lot of people said, well, when I go into court, is this a Article 3 court or Article 1 court? Is this a criminal or civil matter? And if it's criminal matter, where is the corpus delicti, which is the injured party? And if not, if this is civil or it comes under some sort of what's called aberrality type jurisdiction, then where is the contract to put in the evidence to demonstrate that in some shape, form, or fashion, I'm subject to this jurisdiction? Where is the legal relationship? You need to put that into evidence. So like I said, and then this word individual. The word individual, when you look up in the Black's Law Dictionary, it means a organization or an entity, which is an organization. So these are the things I'm talking about. When you look at these words in a Black's Law Dictionary, I'm taking the time to really look at all of these words to see what's going on. And what I find time and time again, that it is usually something commercially related. It's something commercially related. 80% of the words in a Black's Law Dictionary are dealing with something commercially related. It's commerce. All right, so it's like, so that's what I'm into. If you work a job, you're involved in commerce. If you're using the Social Security at all, you're involved in commerce. It's been construed in using the Federal Reserve notes. You're involved in commerce. You're looked at as a merchant because you're dealing with private security. So there are a lot of things that establish what are called minimum contacts that make us involved in commerce. So that's what I did today. I would just go and say, okay, well, let me look at these words and let me really, really analyze this, put a microscope to it and see whether or not what we're saying. Now, also in Black's Law 4th edition, it reads, and I'm reading straight from Black's Law 4th edition, status also means a state because it signifies the condition or circumstance in which one stands with regard to his property. In the yearbooks, it was used in this sense. Now, I had to go and say, what does it mean in the yearbook it was used in this sense? Well, if you're not an attorney, you're probably not familiar with the yearbooks are, but I posted that as well. And the yearbooks are where you get all the case citations for 500 years in English law. So for 500 years, status meant the state. So it's not that I'm coming off the top of my head or saying anything. It's like when you do the research, you just read this stuff out of the Black's Law Dictionary. It'll tell you what they're talking about. And what I was trying to demonstrate today is people need to get away from applying their own loosely construed meaning to words, and especially if they are concerned with, changing the condition of our people, and just kind of like do the necessary due diligence to find out what these things are really talking about. Because for some reason, something is not working for us, and this is one thing I know. Is that if you know natural laws are immutable, and then these positive laws are kind of like subsets of natural law. So if you figure out something correctly, you're going to get a remedy, because the law always affords a remedy because it follows cause and effect. So in order to get a desired effect, you got to institute the correct cause. And you can't institute the correct cause if you have wrong information. You can't reach the right conclusion. So we got to be very, very specific and very, very, scrutinize. You have to scrutinize this stuff like with a microscope to make sure that we're giving out the correct information to people. And that's all that I'm saying.
Well, Brother Yusuf, I'm down here in the South. I'm going to say that I'm on 12th of Merle, and I'm going to engage in a situation with a man with a gun and a badge on the situation. Right. Is it involving contract law, or is it involving natural law, or is it involving what we would call statutory law? I know you can deal with that.
There's no such thing as anything being out. There's no such thing as anything being outside of natural law. So everything comes under the umbrella of natural law. Positive law is a subset of natural law. I mean, you can get any Westlaw business law book, and it'll tell you that. So it's like you're always, everything is subject to the law. Nothing comes out of the umbrella of natural law. But when if anybody is subjecting you to any type of statute, it has to be a contract. That's the only way you can be brought into a statutory court, is through a contract. It's the only way you can bring it. In the old school, that's what we used to say. We used to come in and say, is this a criminal or civil matter? This is a criminal matter. You've been charged with, 50 keys of cocaine, 2 dead bodies, and, all this. And they say, okay, well, thank you. Let the record reflect that the action being brought against the defendant is a criminal action. Now, sir, for the record, the Constitution for the United States of America only grants this court 2 criminal jurisdictions. One is under the common law, and the other constitutes a condition of contract under criminal aspects of a colorable admiralty jurisdiction. Now, sir, would you be so kind and state for the record under which 2 of these jurisdictions is this court operating? Every time you say that to a judge, I've not had one time where they ain't frozen. And they'll try to, you see them start to squirm. They don't want to answer the question, because the Sixth Amendment protects our right to know the nature of the action. And what they do is they have they created this corporate action, which is a penal action. And anybody can look it up. Look at a Black's Law Dictionary and look up the word penal action. And with these penal code violations, and they've made them look like a lawful actions or a lawful process. But it's not. It's not. So they're very, very similar looking. When you go in a court, it's very hard to distinguish what they're doing. So when you go in there, you have to ask them. Now, if I got pulled over by the police, there's no need to you don't ever want to dishonor a police officer or anyone like that. Obviously, hopefully, you're giving everyone notice of your position while you're utilizing the public the public ways and so forth for your private purpose, not for private profit or for gain or anything like that. And if there's, you're going to be running into police officers who are ignorant. But I will say this: a lot of the interaction, and I see people who they seem to have interaction with the police every week. My question would be, well, what are you doing every week where you're engaging a police officer? Why are you attracting this much attention to yourself? What are you doing? How are you thinking with your mind where you keep involving yourself in these situations that you have to engage yourself with the police? Because nothing comes into your space without you bringing it. That's natural
right.
law. That's the first law of the mind. Everything is mentalism. So what are you doing to attract that? Are you thinking about the police all the time? Are you constantly in a state of fear where you're fearing the police and all that, where you're attracting this? What are you doing that's attracting all of this? So the first thing I would tell a person is they need to cleanse themselves and work on themselves and stop attracting so much negativity into their life. That's number one. And then number two, if you happen to engage a police officer, it's commercially related. It is about a debt collection. And let me explain that. When the country went bankrupt, they got something called the statute merchant. And you can look this up in a Black's Law Dictionary and look at the second sense of the word. And it's going to talk about a bond. Statute merchants, now, a lot of people who haven't been involved with the feds, they won't recognize this. But I've done a lot of casework in the feds and looked at hundreds of cases in the feds. And what they do is they put this bond in that is defined under the statute merchant. Now, the statute merchant is where somebody could pledge their body for the payment of a debt. It was instituted by Edward I around 1100. Okay, now under the common law, they didn't know any process like that where you could pledge your body for the payment of a debt. But what they did in this country after 1933, when the country went bankrupt, they put all the property into trust, which is why y'all register everything, because it's in what's called receivership. The United States receivership means that a business is allowed to continue operating, okay, with oversight. So the Secretary of Treasury is the receiver of the bankruptcy that's going on here in the United States, and through a process what is called a novation. They use what's called a novation. A novation is when you can take debt from one person and place it on somebody else. So the United States, they removed the obligation of the debt from themselves and put it on these strawman entities, which are the U.S. citizens, and he gave each one of us a U.S. citizen and made us responsible for the collection of the debt, which is why they're always concerned with why people are employed. That's why when you go to a public school, no one in public school is teaching you how to run your own business. Everything in public school is teaching you how to be an employee so you can go get a job and pay income taxes. That's what it's all about, getting taxable revenue from everyone. Everything is a tax. And if you look up the word tax, you will see it's called a charge. And if you look up the word charge, you're going to find out that it is a lien, that they're putting a lien on you. Right? So everybody's trying to lien your estate. So your status, as it relates to what is called in a commercial sense, is whether you are the creditor or the debtor. And if people don't, in Georgia, it's very easily verifiable. Here in Georgia, you can look up OCGA 1711-1, and it'll tell you very clearly that when they find you guilty of something, they put a lien on you. So I don't understand why an attorney, or anyone for that matter, they say this is not commercial, because as soon as you see that word lien, you automatically know it's creditor and debtor.
Well,
that's right.
I think that if they see it, the first thing they got to discover is the fact that, wait a minute, we got to remain in business. We're not dependent on nobody thinking and all this kind of stuff. We're not accustomed to that. We put stuff into, we invest millions of dollars for people not to be thinking. We've got to open up a line to a caller here.
Okay.
Area code 904. You're on the air. 904, are you with us?
Hello.
Hello. Tell us who you are, where you're calling from, and what's your question or comment for our guest.
I'm just calling to say that I'm glad y'all have this for Black people that's trying to find themselves, and it makes a big difference for a Black woman find herself. It makes a big difference, and you don't even know the amount that you black men, I love you guys, but it just makes a big difference. That's all I have to say.
How many of us you love?
Excuse me?
How many of us you love?
What?
Okay, sister, we got you. We got you. You hear the last point that I made. You hear the last point, last question I asked.
What's what?
You love us black men?
I love my black men. Always. Yes. But
Okay.
I am like, I have always like felt like I'm that woman that has like been to the church and try to go there and everything, but it never worked for me because I knew it was something different. It was something beyond the church. It was something that was like, I know there is something more to life.
What are you trying to tell us?
I'm just saying I like to hear y'all black men just talk, and I like to listen. That's what I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Yes. I love it. It's a love.
All right.
And if you're a black woman and you love your black men and you just commute with them, man, it's awesome. It's so awesome. That's all I'm saying.
All right. Well, we thank you for calling in and telling us how wonderful we are. I have to assume that I'm in here with the rest of these jokers. Bye.
I love you.
I love you. Now, Brother Yusuf.
I'm here.
They say they love you, man.
Oh,
Brother Diallo, they love you.
I thought you were talking about all of us. yeah, you know. You love them.
Right.
That sounds like one of Tarhaka girlfriends.
I know. Yeah.
You know what? You are too intuitive. Now we're gonna be moving along. Now, what do you think? If a brother
Got some echo.
You got some background noise.
Okay, we're gonna try to deal with that. Hold on a minute. How about that?
I guess it was a little better. Yeah.
Okay, we got that. Now, my next question is, if I'm stopped on the road and I told the policeman or an officer of the law that my nationality is Moorish, after they have been assuming that I'm black. Does that mean anything?
I mean, why are you saying they're assuming that you're black? I mean, first of all, you're talking about a police officer. Who is a police officer? Police officers are not the sheriff. Police officers are not the constitutional authority. So why would they be concerned with your nationality? Police officers don't have any constitutional authority whatsoever. That's why you don't see any police.
What if they were officers of the law? They declare themselves to be officers of the law.
I mean, what does that mean? I mean, there's only two types of lawsuits. Either you have constitutional authority or you don't. You have either municipal authority or you have constitutional authority. The constitutional authority is the sheriff. That's why you don't see police officers in any of the county jails or anything like that, because they can't arrest nobody. They can't kick nobody out their house. They can't do anything because they the police. They security guards for the municipality. But now when you are in a municipality, and municipalities are the only place that slavery exists. You can read that in the Pert versus Pennsylvania, as well as the Dred Scott case tells you that very clearly. You know, nobody ever seems to catch that point of, you know, the Dred Scott case. We talk about everything but that. But the thing is that you're in a form of slavery. When you come and live in these cities, it ain't no different than in the days of the old movies when you see like King Arthur and everything. When somebody come to a city, the cities usually have walls around them. And when you come into the city, they'll stop you at the gate and ask you, what's your business? And they say, well, I'm coming, blah, you coming to sell something? What you coming in here for? You know,
give me your
coming
gun.
as a merchant or something. And then they say, well, I need to get your weapons and all this. And they get that out the gate. You get stopped at the gate. Well, they don't have walls around it anymore, but you have municipality lines and everything. And that's why when you go in a city, you see police officers. Police officers are there to, and the Supreme Court has said this like 1 trillion times. Police officers have no duty to protect you.
Nope.
Because that is not what they are constituted to do. They are constituted to protect businesses. They are there to protect commerce, right? The infrastructure of commerce, which is why I don't understand why when somebody gets, you know, all these people get shot down in the street, how you respond to that. If you get shot down the street by a police officer, it means stop shopping there. They'll stop shooting you down, you know, but they know they can shoot us down. We keep spending our money with them.
What if they believe that they are not police officers but officers of the law?
Okay, well then you're talking about belief. So now we're talking about a situation where somebody doesn't know something, and that could end up any kind of way, you know. And that's going to be predicated on how you handle the situation, which I would advise never giving an appearance of your that you are challenging them or that you are threatening or anything like that, and just be very, very, you know, very, very respectful and everything. And just, you know, I'm always very respectful, and I don't have any problems. Matter of fact, last time I got arrested, I was in the cell, and they wanted my Social Security number, because I don't ever give them no Social Security number or a driver's license or nothing like that. You know, you don't give them anything that's going to show they got a contractual tie, because that's what the driver's license and the Social Security card do. You can say I am a Moor, I got my nationality, and then you hand them a driver's license or a Social Security card. Let me ask you, how should they handle that? If you just gave them your bank account information, because that's essentially what you're doing. You're giving them your bank account, because that's what a Social Security number is. It's an account information. You just gave them that. So how should they handle that? If you say you just claim one status, and now you give them your account information, and now they can write you a ticket and put a lien against your estate for you to pay that. How should you handle that?
Well, me personally, first of all, Diallo, how you think we ought to handle that?
Which part, man? You know, the beginning, the middle, or the end part? Which part? If you got a ticket, I'm gonna be honest with you. Me, how I'm gonna handle it?
Yeah.
If they lucky enough to catch me and give me a ticket, I'm gonna go and pay it. I ain't got time for that. Go ahead, pay the ticket. Now we got other things that we can do. If you have time to go in to, you know, get a set a court date, and do your thing, or even before you even try to handle it, before you even go to the court, you handle it through the mail. There's several ways you can handle it. But I ain't got time, man. If I got a speeding ticket, I'm gonna probably pay it.
or what you could do is you can pay. This is what I do. Yeah, pay it, but you don't have to pay it with Federal Reserve notes. You have to pay it with Federal Reserve notes. The country's bankrupt. There isn't any money in circulation. Why would you argue with him about some money when you can put your signature on it and pay for it? I mean, that's the concept that escapes a lot of people. It's like, why are you arguing with these people? It's like, I'm not going to argue with you. That's why you don't see on anything. No one ever tells you in the public how to pay for something because they can't. They can't tell you to use Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve notes is promissory notes. Okay, they're private securities. Everything is about bonds in the public. Everything. A promissory note is a bond. It's a promise to pay. That's what a bond means. Bond means promise. That's what it means. When you talk about promise, everything is operating around bonds, which is a promise to pay. So you can write a promise to pay and give it to them. I've been in court on traffic tickets, $600 for a young person. Say, Yana, I ain't going to argue with this. We're going to pay it. I got a promissory note right here. I'm going to pay it right now. And I've had a judge tell me in court, we only take cash, check, or credit card. And I just fired back. I said, am I to understand that the honorable judge is willfully violating public policy? Is that what you're telling this court here today, sir? And he said, no. He backed up real quick. No, that's not what I'm saying. Can't nobody tell you how to pay nothing, okay? Nobody, because they bankrupt entities, and they got to take whatever you give them. If you sign it on a piece of toilet paper and give it to them, they got to take it. And that's what a lot of people don't understand. You're not required to use Federal Reserve notes.
Right.
Federal Reserve
notes
pay nothing.
That's right.
Well, y'all, hold on. I got another caller with his hand raised. Hold on.
That's my man.
312. Come on in.
Hey, what's up?
312. Hey, man. Let us have it.
This is Keely.
Keely, what's up, God?
Hey, what's up, man?
First of all, let me introduce this brother, man. This is a young brother out of Shout Town. I was about to say Shout right, straight out of Chicago, and he's a student of everybody. And he's going to be one of the people at the Summit of the Moors in 10 days, laying on the line, right? And it was funny that Yusuf was just saying how you don't have to pay how you pay for it, right? So Keely is definitely one of the guys who've learned and have executed the method of paying without using Federal Reserve notes. You understand? So Keely, tell us about yourself, there, young brother.
What you want to know, man?
What you got going on, brother?
Drop it. What you got?
I'm actually in the middle of I just got done with a meeting. I'm about to go to another one when I get off the phone. So I just checked remember I told you about my sister's student loan stuff I just did?
Right.
I just checked the website. It's being paid in full. I sent the instrument out I think last week before I went to my trip in Florida. So it's gone. The negotiable instrument took care of over $11,000 of debt. Like Yusuf said, there's no money. There's no way to pay for anything. Actually, Federal Reserve notes is extortion because Federal Reserve notes come from the Federal Reserve Bank. So that's extortion.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask you this in our conversation today. Where did you learn? How? Because some of us, all of us in this game who trying to move some things. We put these forms out and they was wrong or they wasn't executed or they just took them joints and never returned them. So who and what did you learn and getting it perfected?
Well, I learned from Yusuf, man. Well, I've been learned it like years ago, but his show really put everything in proper perspective. You know what I'm saying? Because you have to establish an interest in your instrument. A lot of things I learned from the past. Well, a lot of mistakes I made in the past. I was sending out stuff without putting interest on the claim on it, so I was not holding the course of it. So you saying that shit used to talk about work? You got the best show out here, man. He got the nationality. Him and Tarhaka too. Tarhaka got a lot of good stuff too. He got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, he does. He does. Yeah, he does. Yeah, it's like, and here's the thing, it's like a lot of people who listen to my show, they be trying stuff, and I'm like, dang, I'll never think about that. They do stuff, they go out and create ways of doing things and everything, but that's what it's for. It's for you to be creative, and I'm glad you called the part about putting the claim to your instrument because, you know, it took me about 3 years to grasp a lot of things that about the process. The process was perfect. It was just that no one came along and really explained it. That's what I saw, and that's what I'm seeing with a lot of things. It's like a lot of these processes out here that people do, that don't work or anything. It's not that it doesn't work. It's, you know, nobody ever really came along and really explained it properly. You know, and saying this is how it is. Because whoever put it out years ago, which I believe was some judges or something like that, or some people on the inside with inside knowledge, and somehow it got from the inside and started circulating around. When I studied, I'm like, man, this is perfect. I don't know who put this together, but he was extremely intelligent how they put it together. And you can't help but come to that conclusion. So, but what I noticed is a lot of the other gurus, especially a lot of us were following the Patriot gurus, you know, I know I came out, you know, following a lot of the Europeans and everything. And we have a tendency, tribute to them, that they know what they talking about, I guess, as they white or whatever. And, you know, once you just kind of put that to the side and start doing your own research and start kind of analyzing things for yourself, that's also another thing about this thing. What I see is that you got people out there who are intentionally putting out bad information, too. And you got to watch out for them, too. And that's why it's really, really necessary for you to do your own research. Do not put your soul in no man's hands. I know I don't. But my soul in nobody's hands. My own.
Well, let me ask you this now, Brother Yusuf, you're talking about people doing reading, writing, and arithmetic on an individual level. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Yeah, I mean, you know, you got to learn how to read. You got to do that. I know, you know what? I know a lot of people can't. I know there are some people out there who can read, but they don't know how to read. There's a difference.
How do you read?
First of all, you got to know, you got to master the rules of English grammar, which a lot of people have not. They don't, and that's very evident from looking at Facebook. Look how people, you know, there's a guy who was cussing me out on my website, and he didn't capitalize his letters. He said, I master contract law, but in your sentences, you didn't capitalize the letter at the beginning of every sentence. You know, in some circles, you know, you're going to be judged, your level of intelligence is going to be judged on how you express yourself on paper. It just is. You know, you can say you're claiming you're intelligent, and you can't put together a coherent sentence. How's that? I mean, what is that? You know, and in law school, the lawyers who they take into law school, they come from, they're either political science majors or they're English composition and grammar majors or something to that effect. But the judges, they're masters in English grammar. English grammar is it's a language in and of itself. They can use. That's why I'm saying that you look at it. For instance, Constitution of the United States and Constitution for the United States. There's a preposition right there. They preposition the word. The word is preposition. It's from preposition and in two different ways. You have of and for. Of derives out of something. For is applied to something. It's being prepositioned. So you see what I'm saying? So something telling me now. That's a preposition.
Now you're telling me that there is the Constitution of the state of California, and you are telling me there is California State. Is that what you're telling me?
Well, obviously, I live in California. In California, we call it California Republic.
Okay.
That's on the state flag, you know. So you got the Republic, and then in Texas, I'm from Texas, we got the Republic of Texas. So there's a republic, and then there is of course, a democracy which is mob rule. That is, which is the corporate side of everything. Where they have a democratic process that they follow. But there's and basically all that is, once again, is public and private. The republic and the democracy. Whatever. There are two sides to everything.
How can our listening audience best understand, in a nutshell, public and private?
Well, I think the best way to do it would be, first of all, go to my website, go to highfrequencyradionetwork.com, go up to the top of the page and click on the PDF section, and when that pops up, you're going to see trust and banking, commercial, constitutional, and state law, foreclosure, and esoteric new age. And the constitutional column, which is the very center column, you're going to scroll down, and then there's going to be a document on that web page. And that document is called Public and Private Outline. You're going to click on that document, and a one-page document is going to pop up. If you can master this one-page document, everything will be able to be made sense to you. And when they pull that up, you're going to see, first of all, that everything descends from natural law. Okay? And then you have something called positive law. Positive law is another name for man-made law. So natural law is always going to supersede man-made law. Why? Because natural law is immutable. In other words, it's not a respecter of persons, and it's not subject to change. No outside power can act on it. Okay, and it devolves on everyone indiscriminately. So it's natural law. From that, you get positive law, which is man-made law. Now, the people who institute man-made law, they need to be knowledgeable about natural law, which is why you see all of the people in those places. They're the Masons, Illuminati, Shriners, or they're in some sort of organization principles and action as they relate to natural law. But you got to be an expert in that. So they're going to institute positive law. And you'll see positive law has a substantive side and a procedural side. All law has to have a procedure, because procedure, it comes from the laws of nature as well, because in nature you have what is called cause and effect. And this is what I'm talking about. This is why they say in order for you to get your remedy, you need to follow the correct procedure. And that's why the procedural law, you have remedial law. The remedial law affords a remedy. So for you to get a remedy, you have to follow the correct procedure. That is imitating nature, because nature operates like that. That's what they said. The definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing over and over again, hoping for a different result. Nature doesn't operate like that. If you want to get a different result, then you need to change your procedure, because every procedure is going to give you an exact result. And then you have what's called the substantive element of law, which creates and defines and regulates rights. And that splits into two, which are called public and private law. And where am I getting all of this? I got all of this out of a Westlaw business book, and all the definitions come out of a Black's Law Dictionary. This is not coming off the top of my head. Okay? So when you have a substantive law, it splits into what is called public and private law. And public law is constitutional law, criminal law, administrative law, tax law, public international law. Okay, on the private side, you have contract law, tort law, status law, property law, family law, private international law, which is also called conflict of laws. Conflict of laws and private international laws are synonymous terms. And once you understand the differences between those two, as soon as somebody says Constitution, they say, well, we're under the Constitution. I say, okay, well, you're bringing us into the public, and you're putting us under some sort of governmental authority. Because in this country, people are free. People are free, all right, without government interference. You have what's called a right to privacy, and right to privacy means no interruption of government. And we can make the argument, because I understand what some Moors are saying. They're like, you used to be kicking this private shit. That shit ain't no reality, man. They don't still fuck with you and things like that. You know what I'm saying? I know. Come on, I'm a street cat. I understand what you're talking about. You ain't gotta like. I understand. I'm a realist. I'm rooted in reality.
Oh, wait a minute. Well, wait a minute. Now, Diallo,
Yeah.
Based on what the brother said, now I'm in 101,000 agreement with what he said. But what I need to know at 1 hour and 29 minutes in, how does go into community? Give us a breakdown.
What?
I just hour and 29 minutes into what the brother said is 100,000% correct.
You say go into what now?
Community, man. How that reflect?
Man, you so country, man. I'm trying to understand you, brother. Okay. What is?
I like that country accent though.
Hey, Tarhaka, hey, he listen, Tarhaka. Hey, we all country, cause
now you don't know nobody on earth more country than me. Come on.
Hey man, you know Tarhaka got that. Tarhaka got that Shan. He got that Shan Ripple in front of him. That's what's going on. But he down the street from me. But what my brother's talking about is all right. Exactly. When you're a researcher, see that's one of the differences. Let me explain this too. Is we always we have to get into the character and nature of these words. We have to get into the true execution of these forms and these terminologies and the procedures. That's all. That is all the law of nature. You can't understand winter, spring, summer, fall till you know that it comes every 3 to 4 months and so forth and so on. The winter solstice, all that's natural that man has produced into form to govern himself. You understand?
Right.
And so understanding these things, when they put it in their book, so they can understand, because this is them with their understanding that they're going to abide by. And if anybody voluntarily wants to, you can. You understand? Check it out. The word constitution. Look up the word constitutor. Okay? Those are the motherfuckers that wrote the Constitution. What are they? The Constitution is something that basically passing on a debt to a third party.
Yes.
Right? So when you understand person and corporation and all these other things, this public side, you understand. But see, that's why the English bucked them with the war. Like, yo, we're not paying taxes, because see, the taxes, like, yo, all right, we need these 13 corporations and colonies started. You guys want to pay a tax on it? Nah, man, we ain't paying nothing. All right, here's the Constitution. What's that? That's what debts and everything else that you agreed to before the U.S. came into existence. Now, how it ties into community is these things affect us, and we allow them to affect us voluntarily and involuntarily. We allow the so-called orators to interpret something, and then we take it amongst ourselves and spread it amongst our family and our community, and that should be dead as wrong. You understand? Yeah. So we have to have a great understanding of law, of if you want to get into the status, if you want to get into nationality, you have to have a great understanding for yourself. For example, back in the day when I first started getting all this stuff, like, around the crack in the cold time, I'll go into court with 20 pages, baby, for a $35 ticket. I'm about to try this thing. You understand? We're going to see what works. You got all this armor, you know what I mean? And that shit ain't, there's no sense in learning and studying if you don't go out and go to battle. Yusuf is going to battle. Tarhaka is going to battle. Akili, battle. Me, battle. Anybody at the summit, battle. You understand? I go in, but guess what? If you ain't got all that shit memorized, it ain't no good. Nigga left me out there, the last one, cleared the courtroom out. Yo, what's going on? What's all? He was real nice. What's all of this? Listen, man. You ain't got no jurisdiction. You can't do nothing. I don't want to hear nothing. I don't understand. What do you mean? Yo, listen. The court. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was the first test run, and it boils down to you have to internalize this stuff, because if you're gonna, you don't know when you're gonna run into something or be misinterpreted as a hostile. You understand? So it does us great to have these blog talk shows like this, who can have different perspectives, but coming with the facts. It does us great to be a studier for ourselves. That's what Drew Ali said. Yo, study some more. When you're done, study some more. God damn, that's great advice. So let's be more specific now in 2015, because people are studying stuff and it's not their path. That has nothing to do with them. You understand? When you talk to me about community and we start talking about his driver's license and privileges, I'm saying, listen, I don't want to hear that shit, because somebody just got shot yesterday in the head for walking on the sidewalk. You understand? Yeah, they had nothing to do with driver's license. I want to deal with the things that are more relevant. And to me, what I've seen at my age in 2015, the only solution for us, if we're going to remain in the municipality, and that's a dope jewel Yusuf dropped. You got to understand that. Last week I went into the origin of these police officers and why they're still acting up under the Victorian rule, why they treat the women better than they're treating anybody else. You understand how it all came out of the British Empire back over into North America. So anyway, you have to form communities. Yep. Okay? When you form that's why I hate when niggas be talking about, yo, we need a government. A government, y'all niggas can't form a neighborhood watch. But you want a government? You can't form a progressive community, but you want a government? You ready to do business with 6 other continents, brother, sister? And you can't get 2 blocks in your city. You'd rather sit in the house and pretend like you're gonna form a real government. See, me, the Sankofa Initiative in Jacksonville is dead ass serious. Buy a house, buy the next house, right in a row. Because if you're in the hood like me, we got plenty empty houses, which to a business person is plenty opportunities. The governments are about business. Governments are based off of families that have to do business in order to survive or to progress. You see, they start out with agriculture, the trading, and then we get into other things, a form of commerce that people will utilize to progress and expand. And that's what this is about. When you look at group economics, we always mention the Asians. We always mention the Jewish communities. You understand? Those are 2 of the most powerful communities in North America, the Asians and the Jewish community. Why? Because they ain't let nobody in. But people think I'm a racist when I tell you I don't give a damn about no gay community, because that's an abstract. Okay? What the fuck is a gay community? You understand? That's somebody's sexual prowess. I'm talking about when I walk down the street, I get locked up, or somebody clutch their pocketbook because of the way I look, not because of what I sleep with. You understand? So to protect me, I need others that look and think like me, because you see me first. You don't see what I'm having sex with first. You understand? You put that place, you form areas, you close those areas off. Dr. Claude Anderson laid it out. We're executing it. Before him, it was Dr. Amos Wilson. Before him, it was Dr. Chancellor Williams, Destruction of Black Civilization. Those 3 are the blueprint for what we're doing or what the Sankofa Initiative is. So we got to make sure that we have a moral code in our area. Not just, so when we buy this house here probably Friday across the street from my house, the people that's already inside the Kemetic Empire or other people from around the country, they'll have, the contract is, yo, this is what we do, this is how we living over there. When the plot next to it is available, we buy that, we put the urban farms in there. Then we put more families. We make the houses affordable. We don't want renters. We want people to own their property. It's a whole different mindset when you owning something else. And you know, we got, I ain't gonna say tricks, but we got plenty of knowledge to put everybody in the right position. Then we can talk about economic power. We can talk about voting in blocks, because your vote singularity does no good. If you constantly make a conscious effort to vote in a block or to move somebody in a particular office, now we're talking about political power. Or you cut a check to the person that you want that's going to deal with the needs for your community. It only makes sense. This is how you eliminate crime out your area, buy the area up. The Europeans do it every day. What they call it, whitewashing, or what's the other word they call it when the Europeans move? White people move in, so-called white people.
Gentrification.
They call it gentrification. But if you look at it, the Negro didn't own anything. The Negro allowed the house property to go down. That's one way to look at it. Or I could look at it and say, well, the banks were doing predatory lending, and so those people couldn't afford those houses, so they left out. The people pushed drugs in the area. Why? So that the area can dry out. The city council, like in Jacksonville, doesn't fund this side of the town. They fund everything south and whiter than this side of town. So they treat it like a third world country. Everything is dependent. There's no true ownership and control of the property or the businesses. So this is the shift to get our people, own and control this. Bring your own private security for your area. Then we can see things change. But, alone, we're... Go ahead, brother.
Well, now y'all just... Let me tell you how I know it to be. This is how I see it. Every man on the police force have been given an education about how he's supposed to do out there on the pavement. Before he leaves his house, his wife always remind him about the real come home thing in one piece. However, in every man's house across this nation, he's still faced with the same thing, man or boy. Now, when you have the knowledge that you guys have got, and there's no doubt in my mind, still going to be faced with, man, that means to me what that particular object can do about making things work where he at. How far does the rays beam away from him? Does it beam from 15th down to 1st and from 15th down to 31st? Is his reputation of righteousness? To me, based on what I know, and then y'all can say what you want to say, I'm 62 years old, but that's all I ever know. The men that I knew, they wasn't very, very smart, and I think you all have a tremendous thing that you can work with. But one thing was certain. There were police, they were black, and they were white, who knew that these particular men covered from 8th. And from 8th to 22nd. They had that perimeter, and they knew that people in there was conjoined with this particular man. So it all boils down to the same thing that it boiled down to in Africa. The man, on an individual basis, has to have knowledge. He has to be physically in shape, nutritionally in shape, love his people in shape, love his community in shape, and make sure his mark was on the platform all of us. To me, that's the bottom line. And the reason why I'm telling you this is because I have been accosted by men with guns and bags. And they told me, so. I said, yeah. Kidding me. But I know it. It's all right, you. Have a nice day. White man, he said, you know, so-and-so, you've been over Do you know anything about this area? Go ahead. See, yeah. Yes, sir. Well loved and all of them. Well, you have a nice day. So, what I'm trying to tell you is, in spite of all the knowledge and power that you think you have, it all depends on you. Because a man's reputation and himself is what protects his house. That's all I got to say on that.
I agree with that. But I think, that's why it goes back to your mind, how you think, and what you're attracting to yourself. That's why I'm on this natural law thing so hard, too, because, ultimately, at the end of the day, you can't change anyone else. The only thing that you can change is yourself. The only thing that a person has mastery over is he or she, himself or herself. That is it. So at the end of the day, it really comes down to, what are you projecting out into the universe that's coming back to you? And I just, that's how I live my life. I haven't had any problems or anything like that when I start governing myself like that. And, and that's what I see all of the mystery schools teaching and everything is that, hey, you are a god or a goddess and that you create your reality. And that is what self-mastery is all about, coming to a conscious realization that you are one with the source of all creation. That's all I got to say on that.
That's true.
Well,
that's true. Everything says true.
Well, I have to say this, because a lot of us believe in the Bible. And in the book of Proverbs, it tells you that a man's name is more precious than gold. That name come behind that man. Mm-hmm. And the internet gives us a tremendous amount of power. But in my opinion, we have to think beyond that. We have to think by ourselves standing on the pavement. And we have to ask ourselves a question. How far does my name go off the internet based on what I've done? How blessed have I been to the people? How many people have I saved? How many times have I avoided killing a man because of righteousness and unjust? What have I done to make my name stand up the best I could do? These are just some of the things that we have to ask. What say, Diallo?
Yes, sir. I'm in total agreement. I'd like to hear from the young brother Keely. What's your perspective on it, Keely, if you're still on the line?
Yeah, I'm still on the line. You say hello?
Yes.
Come on, man.
What's my perspective on what? I was over here kind of doing some work. I heard some of the stuff, but I didn't hear everything. I'm still here.
No.
You said a whole lot. What's going on? Tell me what's going on in Chicago, man.
A bunch of mind control and propaganda. That's about it. All that marching and stuff they doing down there, that's not gonna get nothing done. But the killing that they portray in Chicago is nowhere near how it used to be. When we had the project buildings up in the 80s, the 90s, and the early, the 70s, and all that stuff, that's when the real Chirac took place. Especially when the crack epidemic started in the early 80s. So all that stuff about all this extra murders and all that stuff is a damn lie. I live over here, been living over here all my life. Nowadays, you can go where you want, you got a bunch of faggots walking around and everything, and dikes and all that shit. So it's a lie. It's a big lie, man. Because back in the day, you couldn't be gay walking down the street like that. They would have just beat you up or killed you, whatever. But now it took over pretty much the whole city. So yeah. But other than that, it's just like anywhere else, man. It's being modernized, gentrified, and and people being more stupefied. So there ain't nothing spectacular going on over here.
Well, let me ask y'all this right here, because I can only give it what I've been exposed to. I think that a man, he has to deal with himself and has to deal with his own house first. If he deals with that correctly, if he step outside his house, you don't have to do a whole lot of conversation. And I think that he have to, his reputation supersedes him. And the only thing, the only title that had to be at the top of the reputation is righteousness. And that's something that every man on earth had to respect. They may not like it, but they sure can't do nothing about it. They bent on destroying and becoming a fool. And so I think that's the best way to go. What you do?
I like that. Yeah.
In your own mind, what you do within your own self with nobody ain't around with, just you facing reality. And you have done everything that you're supposed to do with your house. Now you can afford to step outside and take a look at your community. Now, after you do that, and you do it righteously, you have to be cognizant of how everybody thinks about you. You cannot go outside when there are young men looking at you, even though they're doing wrong, and see you doing wrong. They can't be smoking no dope and you doing all kind of brutality and all this right here, and you condone it. You can't do that. They have to understand your weaknesses and your strengths. And the bottom line is, after it's all over and said and done with, they have to call you Mr. So-and-so, because everything they ever known about you was Mr. So-and-so. Now you go on to the next level. You afford to take your wife, and then you do that right by her. Now you're ready to get out and stay looking at your entire county, then your state, then your nation, and then we can become, join the rest of the men on earth.
That's right.
Ali. Rest of them, we can start stepping foot off the continent and see what's going on everywhere else. Make sure we got what we was doing right where we were. After we get that right, now we can have real power. It don't take a whole lot of strength, because when a man gets 60, 70, and 80 years old, his reputation should precede him based on what he done and how he lived, because his name supersedes him and what he put behind him.
That's right.
That's
right.
That's the way I see it. I'm 62 years old, and I'm so glad that I know y'all. And in my opinion, I think that if I knew what you guys are spewing here tonight, back in the 60s, in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, there would be a whole lot of men that wouldn't get knocked out by me. I really believe that, because I believe I could have talked them out of getting knocked out. They had that. So I see him in the grocery store. One of them, man, here you go right here. He beat me almost to death. See, that's what it looked like. Amazing. But anyway, a man's name supersedes him. Huh?
Tarhaka, I can tell you this.
What?
With the minds that we got coming to the summit, we're all going to meet at my house, and we're going to sit down and we're going to chop it up. And we're going to come out with some stuff for 2016 for the country.
Okay. And what day that going to be?
I'll let you know. This will be the first time everybody got together. See, we know we talk about having meetings. Our meetings really should just be more formal, like family, man, sitting down, let it be organic, and let the topic, let the topic, whatever it may be, come out, and we hash it out. Because we got these heads, that's a lot of information that when you put in a room with another great head and another great head, we really can shift paradigms. And that's what the summit is all about.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm in agreement with that, and what you do, let me know. Hold on 1 second. Air code 904. You're on the air. 904.
Hello.
Hello. What's on your mind, sister?
Oh, I was just saying that this is a good thing for like all people. This is a good thing for like black people in Jacksonville. I'm not originally from here. I'm originally from New York, and this is like a good thing.
Is that good?
Some people want you to just like go so far and so little time that you'll reach that goal, All I'm saying is a good thing.
Okay.
As being a black woman.
Okay.
Okay.
Summit of the Moors. Are you going to be at the summit in 10 days?
Hold on a minute. Let me cut it back on.
But I will be
sister,
there.
Are you going to be at the summit of the Moors?
I shall be there.
You'll be there?
I will be there.
Okay. All right.
You going to make sure she got it right, Tarhaka?
Huh? Yeah. Yeah, she gonna be there. Now, she said she gonna be there. Now, brother Yusuf, and brother at 312. 312. This is my question for you. Could you tell me how prominent is nationality in regards to what we're discussing now? And Brother Yusuf set the tone for private and public.
I think nationality is important when we're talking about community building. I mean, when you look at the definition of nationality, it's the people who share a common language, a common heritage. Let me read the definition of it to you again. Talk about nationality. You say nationality. Let me read it to you again. It says, it's coming out of Black's Law, 4th edition. The quality of character which arises from the fact of a person belonging to a nation or state. Nationality determines the political status of the individual, especially with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines his civil status. Nationality arises either by birth or as naturalization, or according to CV, nationality is also used opposed to territorial. And that's kind of like a real sanitized definition of it. But when I pulled it up on the internet, and it was talked about people who share, a common interest, particularly an ethnic group. Let me read it right here. For the person protection of the state, custom, convention, language, and so forth. And how I look at it with the nationality, I'm just going to give you mine, because I don't see where it applies to these courts. I don't really, in all that I've studied, they put everybody in jail. They put white people in jail. They put black people in jail. They put Chinese people in jail. The only people that ain't really go to jail, from what I see, are Jews, and that's because they're the ones that are behind the debt collection of the Federal Reserve and the World Bank. I don't really see a lot of Jews getting locked up or anything, but everybody else, they get locked up. So, you know, I don't really see where the nationality issue is playing a part. I have a lot of clients. The white people, they got the white patriot groups. They're going through just as much problem as we going through. Are we ignoring that? I don't understand how we ignore that. You know, all these white people, these patriots and everything, they going just as hard as we are with this information, or harder. You know, they're trying to decipher it too. So I don't see where the nationality issue is playing a role, other than the fact that if we can come together as a collective and I don't know if it's going to be under one religion, because you're not going to get everybody to be a Moor. You're not going to convince everybody to leave Jehovah's Witness, Catholics. So you got to have some sort of universal message, all right? Some universal message. And I'm kind of looking at this nationality thing starting to turn into a little religious type movement is what it's really becoming. And that ain't going to do nothing but turn off a lot of people. Because I don't look at some of the same things that some of the people in the Moorish Science community. I don't venerate or put people on pedestals the way that they do. Some of the people that they do, you know, I don't look at it the way that they look at it. So, you know, and they don't never, you know, get me or proselytize me over into their way of thinking. And there's going to be a lot of people that you're going to encounter that problem with. So there has to be a universal message. And the universal message is that we all need safety. We all need food, clothing, and shelter. You know, we all need some sort of education for our children. You know, these are the universal messages that I think that we should come together. And I do think nationality does play a part in that it helps us to identify who we are as a people, as a collective. But whether or not you can get everybody on board with that, you know, I don't know if that's going to be very possible. But I think that nationality is important. We're not blacks. We're not Negroes. We're not, you know, all of these, you know, terms that somebody else is trying to apply to us. You know, they're trying to, you know, force labels on us that they think that we are and so forth. And I'm definitely not down with that. That's why I'll carry the name Yusufale. But at the same time, I think we need to be careful about, you know, trying to, you know, proselytize certain messages and voice certain messages, because I'm very resistant for anybody trying to indoctrinate me with their religious mode of thought. I'm just not allowing that to happen. I already kind of went through a little organization like that. I'm not jumping in another one. That's just not going to happen with me. It ain't even happen. You know what I'm saying? It's not happening twice. You know, what the hell's wrong with this shit? Ain't happening no more. I'll start my own damn organization before I let that happen. You know, okay. You know, that's just my thinking on it. So, you know, that's how I look at it. I look at nationality is very important, but what are you trying to accomplish? What is the goal? The Moorish Science Temple has been in effect for over 100 years. What has the message accomplished? Same thing with the Nation of Islam. What visible accomplishments that we can attribute to these organizations that have substantially helped our people with their message? Because if your message contains natural law or the sciences that it relates to nature and everything, it's going to have some sort of effect. You can put it into action, and it will bring about an effect, because that's what science is. One of the 7 principles of law is cause and effect. And if you know the science of causation, then you can bring about a desired effect. And that's just, it is what it is. That's beyond argument. Nobody can argue that fact. So that's how I look at things. You know, people ask me about nationality. I don't have anything against nationality, but I'm a realist. You know, I'm in these courts. I've been to prison. You know, I done seen some things and everything. I'm coming from my experience. So if you ain't experienced these things, you know, if you ain't never been in court utilizing these defenses or everything like that, then I'm not really interested in what you got to say. You know, we got to move past that right now. You know, and I'm in the law library. I study these things, and I do see when you're claiming your nationality, what you're attempting to do is bring yourself out of their jurisdiction. And I'm not saying that nationality, claiming your nationality cannot accomplish that. I do believe it can accomplish that if the conduct of the people is in accord with their declarations, which I'm one to say that I don't really see, you know, that, you know, being done. people are becoming a self-determined people where they're going into their own communities and creating their own infrastructures. That's what I'm looking for.
What you think about that, brother?
I mean, he's right on point. And if anybody ever get the opportunity to go to the website, thecomedicempire.com or urbangeoponics.org, I laid out something called the Sankofa Initiative, which is what I travel the country with Sharif and Mahif building on. One of the aspects we build on it, and the other one is, of course, understanding the corporate status of this country and how you affect it, and then some other things. But we do have that common base, and that all went into consideration when I designed the Sankofa Initiative, because the Negro is going to always worship Jesus. Some of them just ain't going to wait. They're just going to do that. Some going to worship Allah, some the laws of nature. But guess what? We all want to be equal in the eyes of the so-called law. We all want a safe place to live and raise our children. We all want some type of effect inside the city, state, or government in which we live in. And so by forming these communities, consciously forming these communities, we can get that. It's just a matter of time. It doesn't take that much work. It's a matter of doing it. When you go to some of these Jewish communities, they're gated up and closed in, and they're marked off. So it's the exact same thing with this.
Well, let me ask you a question. What did you say your name was?
Alo Saku.
Okay. Let's see. Where's the most popular block at in your city?
The most popular block?
Yeah. Back in the hood.
I don't know, man. It's hard to say.
Where are you?
I'm off Myrtle.
What? Okay. Well, let's say me and you met on the Myrtle pavement, and I need you to lead me where we can do the most successful help for the community. Where would you lead me?
Well, we're already where we need to be at. You gotta start in your community first. You gotta start where the work needs to be at, not where they're already doing. See, my belief is, man, if you're intelligent, you have a gang of resources, and generally most of those people live in the same area. But to have a somewhat greater purpose and extending yourself and sacrificing certain things so that the rest of humanity.
I'm listening. Okay.
You got me muted.
But anyway.
You got me muted.
I got you.
Okay, yeah.
Everybody open.
Yeah, I'm open.
Go ahead, bro.
What was the last thing you heard?
Go ahead. Well, I was trying to find out from him if I appeared where he was, where was he going to lead me?
Well, you already be where you need to be at, brother. If you coming over here, this is where the work is at. We're going where the work at. We're not going where it's not at, because your deeds will be wasted. You wasted while a bunch of people who are already basically created their own heaven. We got to go where the work is at.
Reason why I'm asking that is I'm looking at a 312 area code. That's why I was asking it. But anyway, that's the only reason I asked him. But now, brother Yusuf, you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, now I'm talking to you now. In your opinion, how does contract law, we got men and women out on the pavement, whether they're driving or not, in your opinion?
Well, contract law is Contract, first of all, you got to understand contract law comes in two types. There's an express and implied, and there are executory and there are executed contracts, and there are executory contracts, and there are implied contracts, and there are express contracts. All right, so just saying contracts, you have to qualify that because there are many different types of contracts that you engage in. But usually what's happening is when you talk about people in the public, they operate off of what is called presumptions, assumptions, and color of law. Presumptions, assumptions, and color of law. So they're presuming something about you. This is the reason why people are declaring their nationality. This is also the reason on the commercial side people are doing secure party processes and things of that nature, because it is all a function of giving a notice to parties of what your intent is, what your intention is, okay? You have to let people know, or else they're not going to know. So they're going to be operating off of a presumption. I mean, it's no different than when you go into a restaurant. If you go into a restaurant to eat, that's a contract. Even though you didn't sign anything, you're signing a contract. You know, when you go in there, it's an implied contract. When you go in there and eat something, the contract is executed when you sit down and begin to actually eat the food. Eating the food and something. There may be some contingencies in the contract as if, well, I didn't like it, I want to take this back, it wasn't cooked right or something like that, and then, you know, now you're giving a counter offer, you're changing some of the conditions of the contract, because one of the implications of the contract is you're going to get a good meal, a tasty meal. But there are things that, even though none of this is written down, so when you come and you're using these public roads and you're driving a car with a license plate, you have a driver's license and all of these things, there's an operational presumption in place that you are engaged in commerce, that you're using the public highways for some sort of profit or for gain. And profit and gain are the key terms, profit and gain. If you're not utilizing the roads for profit or for gain, then you should have the right to move about, you know, the way that you want to. I've read a lot of information on, you know, right to travel and so forth. And, you know, obviously you don't have to have a driver's license. I understand that. But I would say that a large part of this, as far as how contract law plays in part with this, is that did you create the contract that you want with these people, meaning letters or contracts. So if you have corresponded with people in the public and you've let them know, including your governor, your local sheriff, your local district attorney, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, the Department of Commerce, all of these different agencies and so forth, if you corresponded with the right people and put them on notice of what your intentions are, what your status is as it relates to your property, how you intend on living your life as a man of God and everything, they are supposed to honor that. All right? But if you haven't given anybody any notice of anything, then yes, they're going to presume something about you, and that presumption is going to be based off of that there is some sort of contract in place that subjects you to their jurisdiction. And if anybody doesn't believe this, do something. I know in California, I went to the DMV and read the California driver's license application, which is, you know, alarming. You know, and then I give you an example, like you get pulled over at the highway, and then they say, well, we need to breathalyze you. And then you refuse the breathalyzer, and then they snatch you up out the car and take you downtown and strap you into a chair and give you a breathalyzer. You know, I've seen these on YouTube videos where, you know, everybody's appalled. They're like, oh, man, look what the police are doing. They just grabbed this guy and snatched him up. Well, I mean, if you read the driver's license application, that's what it says they can do.
Okay.
You signed a damn contract. And it says they can do it. It's on the damn contract.
So in your opinion, would you agree that people need to understand and clearly understand the definition, do the research on about what contract law is and what it means?
I think people should read before they sign their name on something.
So we're talking about
I read the protocols of the learned elders of Zion, and one of the things that you said in that Zionist Jew said, he talked about the Goyim. He said the Gentiles sign their name, they don't read nothing, and that's what people do. They get mortgages, they buy homes, don't read it. They buy cars, don't read it. They get credit cards, don't read it. They sign a bond to get out of jail, don't read it.
True.
You know what I'm saying? They don't read nothing. Yeah. And then they complain when something happens to them. That's what I think we need to do. I think we start reading something before you put your damn signature on it. Because you can sell your soul to the devil. If when the devil comes to you to sell your soul, what does he come with?
Contract.
A contract.
Matter of fact, we talk about that. We talk about that, for example, the people that sign mortgages. It states in the thing that you're supposed to have 3 days before you actually sign it to go over all the contract, every form in there before you sign your mortgage.
And then your mortgage, they make you sign it. You sign it. You do agree that you did have an attorney look over this with you before you sign this contract. It say that right there in the mortgage. I'm reading people's mortgages. I said, do you see what this says right here? You see what you just signed? And you didn't even qualify your signature. You didn't even reserve no rights or nothing like that. You just signed it. You know, I mean, come on, man. I mean, it's like, you know, a lot of stuff, I have to be honest, people have to take responsibility for their actions. And that's what we have. We have a victim mentality type society. Everybody plays the role of a victim, the role of a god, and taking responsibility for their actions and understanding that they are the ones that create. A god is a creator. You create your situation. So you got to start exercising that power.
Owns and controls. Check this out. He just dropped a good one on me in Vegas, on that class, the W-4 form. And I posted this on Facebook. I didn't get not one, nothing. For people who have jobs, that W-4 form, if you get that, man, take a look at it, right? You look at that top part and you fill out all this information, right? You fill out that top part where it talks about, I don't know if it's exemptions or, let me pull it up real quick. So when you fill that out, W-4 form, at the top, right when you finish filling it out, you know what it says? It says, keep the top part for your records. And then I wonder how many people actually turn the entire form and lose these exemptions or whatever they lose, right? It says, all right, from A to H, and it's called an allowance. What type of people get allowances, adults or minors? Minors, you're getting an allowance. You're getting paid. You're getting paid your own money. That's what they call them proxy votes, and you wasn't in on the proxy vote. Right? Check this out. So check this. I'm right on line. It says, we got one, and then it has two. This is for people with W-4 forms. Right above where it says employees withholding allowance certificate, it says separate here, give form W-4 to your employee, keep the top part for your records. But you know what you did? You gave it all to them. Where it says enter one yourself, enter one for spouse, your children, your child. Yo, how about this? How about the other part where it says line 5, number 5, total number of allowances you are claiming, right, from line H above or from the opposite applicable worksheet. That's what page it's on. It's on page 2. How many of us knew that there was a page 2 to the W-4 form where you're claiming your credit zone?
Somebody told me that a guy, he's very good with taxes. He said that the white people do their taxes like portable, and he said they claim up to 11 exemptions, and we only claim up to like a couple, 3 or 4. But you can claim up to something like 11 or something. Even the way that we fill out our tax forms, the wealthy people do it differently. We wait once a year to get a tax return, and they get all their deductions and everything all throughout the year. I say
every quarter.
I'm of this belief that the tax forms is the secret to living the kind of life you want in America.
You know what?
The taxes.
I'm going to agree with you because I do know. One thing is, you can basically look like this. If we're living, somebody washing dishes, man.
Yeah, I mean, you got doing it in the background. Yeah. I'm here.
We're trying to save souls, brother. You over there washing pots and pans. Listen.
No, just pie pan. Just pie one.
All right, so listen.
No.
So, hold up, brother. You go back and finish washing dishes. You just need to mute the background now. So, if we understand, as Yusuf has laid out, the public and private, you understand. If we understand the public and private, corporate aspect, dealing with human beings aspect, if we understand that this whole United States is operating under a trust law or trust, then you understand that in trust there is a trustee, right?
Yep.
And that Department of Treasury tells you that they are the trustee. And they got a lot of money. The Treasury has to have a lot of money, so they need accounting. Who do you think does their books? The IRS. They do the accounting for the Department of Treasury.
Well, okay. All right.
Hold up, Tarhaka. Let me finish my point, brother. The point is, they're dealing with your credit or your so-called money. You understand? And so these forms will be like the telephones in the Matrix. These are your portals. These are your portals to certain things. You understand? Because you have to have the right combination. You got to put the right number in the right line inside the right box, and then put that box somewhere else in order to get what it is that you're looking for, to get the exemption, to get the credit that they keep telling you about. You understand? So we have to have an ongoing, thorough education on the character and forms and the execution of forms. You understand? So we can understand how. Because see, one of the issues is, I'm gonna take it back to the civil rights. When our people were in the civil rights movement, we wasn't dealing with economics. We just wanted to be treated equal in the eyes of the law, which made us suffer 60 years now down the line economically because we no longer own and control like we did during the Jim Crow era. We wasn't looking for the contracts to come equally. Well, we were, but that wasn't on the forefront. But it came too late because the long-term effects from the civil rights movement was that the business suffered because everybody opened up. They opened up the communities, and the communities turned into neighborhoods and went everywhere else. Guess why? The Civil Rights Act is passed up under the Commerce Act. So it's all business because the corporations can't deal with human beings, so they give you a corporate entity, like people like to call a straw man, and that corporate entity is only for tax purposes to pay the debt.
Exactly.
That the Constitutors created the Constitution to pass the third debt because the corporation has been in bankruptcy from day one. When they started the war with England, they had to borrow from France. They were in debt. You know what I'm saying? And those other families have been pushing for the banks to get over here for the longest so they can have them cut the check. They control wars on both sides. So we got to understand that we have to get in the mindset of a CEO, of a boss, of someone that runs a business. You understand? Like a sole proprietor. Those type of things. And then when you look at those forms, you look at those when you do get in the mindset of a person who lives every day, who runs a business. What's that business? Or paying a light bill, paying the gas, and put the gas in the truck. Why do you think they give you receipts? Huh? What do you think they give you receipts for? Because you're doing business. When you go to the grocery store, write that off. Gas in the car, write that off. Child support, daycare. You are a business. So when you're dealing business, you get to write all this stuff off, and your income becomes lowered. Your taxable income is lowered, even when you donate to charities. This is why I tell you, our people do not donate.
Well, wait a minute.
Somebody need to mute the phone, brother.
Oh, that's me. I'm on the street over here.
Oh, that's Chicago for you.
The only thing.
So hold on, I'm gonna close out with this. I'm gonna close out with this one. So when you start operating as a person that run a business, when you operate like that, your mindset is totally different from a person who's receiving an allowance. Okay, so you leave from that child state mentality into an adult who can look at the form and see all these so-called exemptions, all these so-called credits, and get all that money back. You understand your right as someone who did not abandon the account, someone who acquired it. You understand? You got to be able to shift and understand these things. And I can tell you it's a gang of goddamn money for you because it's yours from the get-go. Remember, they created money into existence. They tell you that. They created it into existence. So that means before it was created, there was nothing there. Money modern mechanics. Yo, that's the Bible. Look at it.
Can I say something? I have to agree with every single thing that you said, everything that Brother Yusuf said, and everything that the other brother said. The only thing that I need to add and ask a question about is the fact that all of us that's doing this and understand this, because we know that the majority of people across the United States, they can hear it 1,000 times, provided they got internet. If they don't, they still don't know it. So, therefore, and thus, my question still remains about the individual man. That's the only point I'm making. Brother Yusuf.
What about the individual man? What about the individual man?
Well, I feel like the individual man has to be in position to be respect his house and be known by his house.
What's going to make you respectful is you have to honor the Creator. If you honor the Creator, you'll be granted all of those things. So it's just like you said, a good name and everything. It's like, a good name. Like this is where the Bible, it really has some very good principles in it. If you just eliminate all the dogma, when it talks about, fear the Lord and things of this nature, it's talking about govern yourself accordingly. And in order to govern yourself accordingly, you got to know the laws of the Creator. And that's what the individual man has to do. That's what the private side is all about, governing yourself by the laws of the Creator, respecting your fellow man. This is what it means, though. You can do anything you want as long as you don't violate someone else or their property or anything like that. It's how you govern yourself. And the outline for governing yourself privately is God or the Creator or whatever name you want to ascribe. You have to have those natural laws or whatever. And I want to say another thing real quick is when I was first got into this, Dalo, this wealthy white man, I was talking to him. He knew all of this stuff. And I asked him, this is when I first got into this. I was a couple of weeks in it. And he told me, and I said, what's the difference between rich people and poor people? And he said, rich people know how to fill out forms.
Oh. in my Rick Ross voice, oh.
Man, he said that, man, I was dumbfounded. It was such a simple answer. I said, what's the difference in rich people and poor people how to fill out forms? That's what he told me. I never forgot that. It's always been lingering in the back of my mind with these tax forms. Because I look at them like, man, this shit look complicated. But he told me, he said, rich people know how to fill out forms.
No, man, he's telling you the truth, man, because he told me the truth. I know. It's the truth. Outside of creating your finances and the wealth, to hold on to it, you know what I'm saying, and to get that right book entry going, it's there, man. it's there.
And he told me that. I've never forgotten that. I look at these tax forms, and I know he's telling the truth. Because that's what he was alluding to. You got to know how to fill out those tax forms.
Hey, you
think about it. Go ahead.
Hey, you remember that story you said on one of your blog talk shows about a lawyer that told you just pay your taxes? Remember you told us that?
Another one. It was an attorney I had. I ought to tell y'all his name, but what it was, he's in Atlanta. Very, very popular attorney.
Is that the one that took that bag of money?
I don't want to put a name out. I don't want to get him in trouble for what he told me. But when I first called my case, I went to him. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "Man, can I just pay off these people, man, and make this go away?" He said, "Nah, you can't pay off the feds. Can't pay off the feds." He said, "But let me just tell you something. Pay your taxes." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Man, I'm a hustler, man. What are you talking about? Pay my taxes, man. I don't have no job or no, that's what I'm saying." And that's what he was saying. He was telling me this is a tax. You got to pay it.
That's right.
It's a tax.
The court
if you pay your in this country, if you pay your taxes, you will be left alone. There's a document on my website. It's called Zero Out Your Account. Do not be a tax fugitive. Everybody should read that. It's called Zero Out Your Account. Everybody should read that. Zero out your account. Do not be a tax fugitive.
Well, I might see it a little bit different than y'all. I've been through the YouTube videos. I've seen how they put this thing together, and they put up certain individuals that did certain things and was in charge of certain things and had certain amount of wealth, and they was putting this whole thing together to falsify American consciousness, people consciousness, and falsify the American dollar. And I always look at the man. And I know for a fact, if I was there, right there where he was, that particular man, he couldn't, I didn't knock him out. I'm looking at the man. So, what if, based on the fact that we have all this knowledge, and people who are listening to the broadcast still have all this knowledge, and then even if we don't have access to the internet, and the other men, they have this knowledge, that they still present themselves as structural appearance and able to handle the situation, no matter what we know in the brain, the body comes about it and is attached to it. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Well, one of the things is that's why the platform for the Summit of the Moors was very important to me at one point in time. Like any strategy, man, I got to adjust it. So I wanted to get these brothers and sisters together for the public to come out and hear. It's free. It's always been free. I tell you what, man, anytime you put something like this together, they charge you $5,000, $1,000, $100 just to come hear it. But I know these people personally. I've known them for a very long time. And the thing about it is these people want to help. You understand? They want to help, but they don't want to be drugged in the ground and drained by people that don't want to help, turn around and reciprocate with the help. You understand? So we're about the empowerment. We're about uplifting people out of their situations. We're about challenging their mindsets so they can do the same thing to their family, their area, their city, their state, their government, their local government. So when we get here for 2016, I'm looking at, because I don't want to do the summit no more, but I know if I say, hey, we got all these guys coming to Chicago, Detroit, New Orleans, Baton Rouge, Orlando. If I lay out a tour, people will show up. but I have to charge.
Okay.
If I say $10, nobody show up. But if I say $1,000 for three, you know what I mean? We got to put it. We got to, you know, the people are busy. But I'm looking at maybe possibly setting up something for 2016 for free. I pay it, and everybody will go. We'll go around the country once and have an opportunity to hear these people speak and show you certain things. Not showing execution because, you know, we get into the whole legal thing, but get you to understand certain legal things and everything else, and also forming up these communities around the country. That's the effort that has to change, that has to happen. You understand?
Okay.
We have to educate the man. The man has to want this. The man, meaning woman and man. They got to want the information. They have to want to change. They got to get their head up out the clouds. Check this out. When Red Pill is also calling in. So if you see that, bring him in. But when Neo
I see him in.
Bring him on in. When Neo when Morpheus gave, what's up, God?
Hey, come on, man.
Peace.
Peace
To the family.
Yo, come on.
Great hearing y'all. How's everybody doing tonight?
Man,
we good, bro.
Oh, do your red pill thing, Diallo. I'm sitting by. I want to hear that one.
Okay, so all thing I was going to do is talk about how when Morpheus gave Neo the red pill that woke him up, right? Here's what I like to bring to people most people miss. So my question is, how did they find Neo in the real world when they gave him the red pill? That's what he asked. The blonde chick told him, we gave you something that interrupted your frequencies. And when they interrupted the frequencies, it woke him up. So when we challenge people information, that normal day-to-day frequency that have our people sleep, they tend to wake up a little bit. And what happens is when Neo woke up, the robot came and set him free with no problem. Go ahead, bro. We good. Flushed him. You out. You're now a free man because you woke up. Mm-hmm. Because you're asleep, we're going to continue to use and abuse your ass like a battery, give you charges, raise our empires off of your back. But until then, these frequencies that we're putting out, not only in the universe, but in real life with extractions, with real forms, understanding these forms, moving as a unit, those are the things that interrupt the frequencies because what's been going on ain't working. So we have to adjust the program. And that's what wakes us up. What's up, Ray? What's going on?
You know, I need to add on to that, brother. You know what I'm saying?
Go ahead.
That perfect segue and that perfect setup. What you just described, I'm veggie backing off of that, was, you know, the Matrix is sort of like a modern day Bible, you know, to what we see as the age of Aquarius, or what we affectionately know as the conscious community, because that frequency change or that change in perception, remember, he took the red pill and his perception of reality changed instantly. That is almost akin to the experiences some of us had when we sat down and watched Hidden Colors for the first time, or when we sat down and watched a Tosh Tariq video or a Phil Valentine VHS tape before the YouTube era, before things of that nature, when watching these videos were done in a clandestine way. Like, people were really hiding watching videos. Remember the what's his name? What's the Pilgrim? David Icke, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So by changing the frequency, right, you're able now to operate on a new frequency. Neo was discovered surfing on the web when we watched the movie Matrix, facts?
Right.
But he was, you know, so it's people remember the internet or Web 2.0 wasn't even functioning in 1999 when the Matrix came out. There was no social media and things of that nature. You know, so I'm in Detroit right now, and many of us who have been in situations before, I spent about 30 days out here in the, I would say in the underworld of Detroit, the Amenta of Detroit. You feel what I'm saying? Where our brothers and sisters are being challenged and they're losing their lives on a daily basis. both legally, you know what I'm saying, both through the fiction. The fiction is taking away people's lives by giving them unjust charges. This is happening everywhere everywhere where Moors are domiciling in the United States and outside of it, right? But what I realized and what I've noticed is that the frequencies of our brothers and sisters are beginning to change. So the work that brothers and sisters in this community that are doing on a constant basis is having an effect on the ground level. I'm talking about not ground level, underground level. Because when you get into Kemetic philosophies, they talk about a mentor and they talk about the underworld. And when you get into the South American creation myth, they talk about the Heru twins and the journey to the underworld. And through the underworld is where you were able to bring forth the secrets. And through the underworld, you were able to bring forth all of this information and bring it to the surface. Facts? When you look at the governing, when you look at the first generation of the Nation of Islam, who came out of Detroit, who came out of Chicago, brothers by the name of Detroit Red, who became Malcolm X, those brothers were in the underworld. Okay, the Nation of Islam's first generation were killers, rapists, dope dealers, pimps, and things of that nature. And they were resurrected because their frequency changed once they came in contact with the information brought forth by W.D. Farber Muhammad and Elijah, and then by Noble Drew Ali and all of the other brothers and sisters that go unnamed that were doing the groundwork. So fast forward 100 years later, that dynasty is still alive. We are out here doing the work, okay? The brothers and sisters are out here. There's a group called New Era Detroit, activists that are on the ground, actively shutting things down, okay? Not talking about it, not tweeting it, not Facebooking it. They're on the ground, boots on the ground. These are brothers and sisters, and they are affecting change. There was a situation where a gun got pulled out on a 16-year-old in a gas station by a man of Arab descent. They shut the gas station down and had that man or that employee arrested. They dealt justice in their own hands, not in a violent way, not in a way to put them on the terror list, not in a way to, make them look like the bad guy. They stood up for a young brother in their community and demanded justice, and justice was served. Recently, they just went out to Chicago and dealt with the situation where the brother got shot 16 times in the back, and they linked up with the brothers on Fred Hampton Jr., and they created New Era Chicago. I encourage the family to go and Google them. So what you're saying, Brother Diallo Sekou, about this nationwide tour, I'm saying that I am definitely on board with you. I'm beginning to see things for what they really are. You understand what I'm saying? My frequency is beginning to change. My eyes are beginning to open up. I'm becoming into closer contact with the Morpheuses of the world. And it's showing me that nothing is going to change, by itself. We have to be the ones to affect the change. These brothers in the streets don't have anything to look forward to. They're only looking for something that you can say, don't put the gun down, you know what I'm saying? Put the crack down, put the codeine down, put the pills down, put the Xannies down, and look, come over here. This is a solution. We're doing things over here. We can help put some money in your pocket. So, and that's just one thing. I mean, I'm in Detroit. So Detroit is one of the most, this is the opportunist, this is the place where we could create our own city, our own neighborhoods. They talk about conscious community, but there is no community. There's a network of people, but there's no community. You know what I'm saying? It's a concept. Right. It is a concept. I have no qualms about saying that. It's a concept. It exists online, but it can exist in the real world if we come together, put our resources together. Do you know how many people in that network are resourceful? Do you know how many people stop me on the streets that are, in all fields of employment, in New York, in Atlanta, in Miami, in L.A.? These brothers and sisters are actors and athletes and all kind of things, and their frequencies are beginning to change. And we know once you wake up, you don't go back to sleep. So kudos to everybody that's uplifting fallen humanity, that's carrying out the directives that were laid out to them by many different master teachers, You know what I'm saying? And they are focused on moving forward, not backwards. They're not rehashing old things. They're not dealing with agent provocateurism. They're not dealing with anything that's counterproductive to these babies that are dying in these streets, and these sisters and these brothers and these families that are suffering. Man, there's situations where they're giving brothers and sisters 50, 60, 70 years. That's death. They're giving them death sentences all over, and nobody's challenging that. And the last time that I checked, if you get into a situation, you know, you need to understand legalese. You need to understand law. You need to understand, you need to understand what's going on. And kudos to the Moors and everybody that's dealing with decoding the de facto system and decoding legalese and allowing our brothers and sisters to, to realize that there's a game being played on them. Like, it's a vicious game. This is a vicious dog-eat-dog cycle. You know what I'm saying? Now we got this Islamophobia, you know what I mean, that's been manufactured through the media, and it's another distraction, and it's crazy. But we can't let that take us off course, and we have to do what we have to do, you know what I mean, by any means. So you correct. We have to document the tour. We need to do a crowdfunding campaign for the tour. We need to have a goal in mind with a reasonable, goal in front of us, because they have crowdfunding equity now, which is round A+ crowdfunding, where you have the ability to raise $100 million, not reward crowdfunding like Kickstarter. There's a new form of crowdfunding that was approved through the Jobs Act called equity crowdfunding. So now you can raise enough money to build a mini nation. There are houses for sale in Detroit for $500, $1,000. They're depressed communities. I was born in New York in 1975. That's what Detroit looks like right now. And look at New York right now. The rent in New York is $2,500 for a 2-bedroom on a block where they openly sell crack in front of your building. You got to step over people that's laid out on the block, and your rent is $2,200, $2,300, $2,400. Okay? Women are dying because stress causes heart attacks. So when they raise up the prices all over the city and you can't afford to live, your heart will burst. People are dying at an accelerated rate. That's what regentrification does for you. Regentrification is a curse. Regentrification is warfare against us.
Can I ask a question, though, about that? Because you said something that kind of piqued my interest. Because I just moved from L.A., and you're right, in Compton, people are paying, or in South Central, people are paying $2,000 a month to live in the hood. But my thing is this, it's like, well, aren't you free to leave the city? I mean, like, I left Los Angeles and moved to Georgia, and now I'm living in a place that is half of what I was paying in L.A. and 5 times better the area, 5 times bigger, and everything like that. So, so when we talk about gentrification and everything, okay, you gentrify area, okay, the gentrification, the area is depressed. Okay, when they gentrify area, they're trying to raise their tax base. Okay, you're in a municipality that does not belong to you. Then when you come into these cities, okay, this is a municipality that you're in that is under a corporate form and everything, and we don't really have no right to live in the city. I mean, that is something that it's a privilege almost. So it's like, what was wrong with us when we lived out in the countries, or we go and get in our own communities and everything where we can grow our own food and do our own things like that? Is it because people do not want to do that? They're desirous of living a certain lifestyle that offers them absolutely no benefits whatsoever?
Well,
I mean,
this is my
you understand what I'm saying?
I totally understand what you're saying, and I totally agree with you, brother. And kudos to the move that you made, because the reverse exodus is taking place all over. And our brothers and sisters are now leaving the big cities, and they're doing the right thing, like you said. They're going back into the country where we initially came from. They're going back into fertile land. They're going back into the farm. They're going back. They're leaving the concrete jungles. But there's a multi-pronged approach that we have to take, because I'm not one who is comfortable with leaving behind millions upon millions upon millions of our people, because look at what's happening. They have created a system. There's a system that is funneling the youth of these cities and these depressed areas. It's called a prison industry complex. And it is, it's sucking the life out of our nation, okay? And they're creating corporate slaves. They're creating, slaves out of our people. So even though I agree that we should begin moving to the outskirts of the city and setting up our communities, the same suburbs and other areas that they're leaving to come into the community, why don't we just go into those areas and begin to develop those areas and take those areas over, create industry, you know what I'm saying, in these areas and things of that nature, and then go into these cities and begin to build up businesses and begin to offer our brothers and cities opportunity for employment, an opportunity to train them in skills and trades and things of that nature, and offer them a solution. So I'm approaching it from the point that, yeah, a few of us could leave and we could set the bar and we could set, these new trends. But what about the people that we're leaving behind? They still need our help. And the way that the accelerated rate at which the deterioration is taking place of these generations, we don't have that much time where we could just say, yeah, we'll come back in 10 years and deal with them, Because guess what? The Mexicans, I don't mean to cut you, the Mexicans, the continental Africans, the brothers and sisters from East India, they're making it happen. They found something that works called socioeconomics, group collective economics, and things of that nature, and they are making it work. They're becoming owners. So my thing is we have to begin to adapt the ways of are we ancient Moabites who used to build and we gave civilizations to the Eastern Indians and the continental African and the Asian? Through the Silk Road and other things. So they're here with us, and they're showing us a way that we somehow have forgotten. So we need to adapt. Some of us need to stay behind and build industry and help our brothers and sisters and begin to educate our brothers and sisters and take them out the city for a few weeks. I agree. I totally agree with you, brother. I am there with you. You know what I'm saying? I am there with you. There's a website called landwatch.com. They're selling, I'm going to repeat it again, landwatch.com. They're selling acres upon acres upon acres of land all over America. There's also a website called businessesforsale.com. They'll sell you the factory with the machine and the workers for bargain prices because America's for sale. So we need to pay attention to the fact that the corporation is liquidating.
I just drove.
All right, fellas. All right. Let's give our last kudos in.
Oh, okay.
As we close down. Y'all come on in, man.
Let's Yusuf go ahead and close it out, brother. I appreciate everybody being here. Everybody that's listening, please make sure you go to www.summonofthemoors.com. Register. You would not want to miss this. It's the last one. Go, Yusuf.
Well, this is Yusuf Bell from High Frequency. Oh, can you hear me? Okay. This is Yusuf Bell from High Frequency Radio. Just letting everybody know that I will be at Summit of the Moors on the 19th of this month. And then and also inviting everyone to come check out our show Sunday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., Sunday through Friday. That's 6 days a week. Check out our website at www.highfrequencyradionetwork.com. A lot of free information over there for you as well. And I want to thank you, Tarhaka, for inviting me onto this panel with such illustrious brothers and the company of such illustrious brothers. And I appreciate it every time I come over there. I'm honored to come over to the site and participate in things like this. And I look forward to meeting all you brothers when we get down to the Summit of the Moors on the 19th. Peace to the gods.
Peace, God.
All right, next man. Come on.
Keely.
Come on, soldier.
You said what?
Yeah. Come on in here.
Oh, what's up? Hello? Hold on. My phone is...
You on? Come on.
Yeah, we're closing out, Akili. What's your last words, brother?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I definitely did to some of the Moors. It was a great honor to talk to Tarhaka again. You know, I saw you last year when I was with Diallo at your house. And it's also an honor to talk to Brother Yusuf, one of my favorite teachers of all time, decoding this system. So I definitely look forward to meeting all you guys and breaking, further decoding the system, passing on information to people to uplift humanity. That's my word. Peace.
All right. Red pill, blue pill. Come on.
First and foremost, greetings, Brother Tarhaka. I look forward to seeing you again, good brother. The reception that you showed us, what was that, 2 years ago, it's still, it's still fresh in my mind, you know what I'm saying? The whole Jacksonville, I got a lot of love for the brothers out there. Diallo, you already know what it is. Yusuf, Islam, brother, all of my Moors, I look forward to the summit. And, we're going to make it happen. We're going to come together, and we are really going to hash out some solutions, and we're going to move forward with it. So, it couldn't come sooner. You know what I mean? It couldn't come sooner. So, love and light to everybody.
All right.
Yeah, peace.
Brother, I appreciate y'all for being on, and for all the ladies who were listening. And there's a whole house full of men. They always complaining. So I don't think we need to go out but on one train. And I'm going to close it down.
Hey, I'm a long way from my lady, but I can always feel her presence. I don't care how far I go away. Now, I got a letter today, and it made me feel so good when I read what the letter had to say. I'm going to take the tension off you, baby, because I'm on my way. Hey, baby, I am on the way. It ain't gonna take long, no. Ooh, just one more day. Can you hold yourself together and remember that I'm your girl? And when we make love tonight, we won't be dreaming. Girl, we'll be together. We're gonna make love all night until the morning light. We can do no wrong, baby, 'cause I'm home tonight. Yes, your man is home. Oh, girl, your man is home tonight. Yes, your man is home. Ooh-wee. Your man is home tonight. I'm so glad to be near you. Oh, how I long for your touch. I need your loving so badly. Girl, I can't never get enough. Touch me, baby. And you send chills up and down my spine. I know you got what it takes for me, baby. Oh, girl, I'm gonna love you till the end of time. We're gonna make love all night until the morning light. We can do no wrong, baby, 'cause I'm home tonight. Yes, your man is home. Ooh-wee. Your man is home tonight. Yes, your man is home. Oh, baby. Your man is home tonight. You're so satisfying in everything you do. Tonight when we make love, baby, girl, I know I won't turn you loose. Your love
It's time. Summit of the Moors, December 19th through the 20th in Jacksonville, Florida. Several great minds working on one collective, economic security. For the first time in Jacksonville, Tarhaka Bey, Yusuf L, Akili, and back at the summit, red pill and blue pill, Tarhaka Amaana El Bey, Sharif Noble, and our Amma, the Abundance Child, with myself, Dalo Saku. Register today at www.summitofthemoors.com.